situation for me is getting worse. I don't have the ability to print from Word, which is problematic because my entire show is done on Word. I'm either going to have to learn how to make a PDF on a daily basis or get Word fixed. So it's like no matter where I go to it, it's not working. How long do I have before we're physically in?
We're going to hit traffic, weather, so it's a minute and a half.
Minute and a half, good. I don't even know where I'm starting yet because of this. I think Anna can still get this done. Huh? Okay. .606 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane. Off and running on this Wednesday morning. Got a lot of ground to cover this morning. Starting off with a little breaking news. Our news partners at WBRZ are already on the scene, speaking with our new fire chief, who was on the show last week, Michael Kimball. And they are working a fire to start off the morning on Plank Road. It looks like at a grocery store on Plank Road. I'm sure if this affects traffic, if it affects your drive on the way in, or it affects any people, if we find there are any injuries, victims, and the like, our news partners at WBRZ will keep us dialed in as the morning wears on. But just a heads up to start the morning, that's where we're at. Also a heads up to start the morning, do you know if your kid's going to have a teacher when they get to school? Oh, yeah. Well, let's dive into that in just a second. I'll give you the rundown as we do. Attorney Franz Borghardt on the show, 6:35 this morning. We got Legally Served coming your way as we do every single week. You know, yesterday we were talking with the chief of police about a number of things involving crime. And it started with the very violent weekend that we had last weekend. Sunday was just ridiculous. Sunday saw 4 shootings. 2 of the shootings left people in the hospital, 3 people in the hospital. The other 2 shootings, homicides. There's dead. One of the things the chief has mentioned every time we talk about crime is the headache that is arresting the same people over and over and over again. A revolving door of crime, if you will. Well, again, our news partners at WBRZ, they had picked up on this. If you haven't seen it, Chris Nakomoto had a story at 6 o'clock last night. If you didn't see that, it is worth the watch because there does need to be some level of what can we do. It can't just be this is the way it is. 3 different people who are accused of multiple crimes have bonded out of jail multiple times. We've been told by not just the chief of police or the sheriff or the district attorney or any number of people, but we've been told multiple times that a lot of the violent crime you see in Baton Rouge happens as because of a very small group of people. Well, if those people are just released back into the wild on a regular basis, then we're going to continue to see it. But what actually can be done from a legal perspective? Franz Borghardt is going to be here for that. Also, there was a story last week about a judge siding with a defendant in a case where dash cam footage was taken of BRPD, I believe strip searching, I could be wrong about this, strip searching a juvenile. And again, I'm working that off of memory, so if that's not the exact story, we'll dive into what is the exact story at 6:35. 7 o'clock hour, we've got a double dose of DC Current coming your way. Congressman Troy Carter normally joins us on a Tuesday. He is joining us at 7:15 today. Oh, we got a lot of ground to cover there. Should be a good time. Should be a good time because I know he's going to want to talk filibuster. I'm all about that. Okay. Crazy thing about filibuster talk is it all depends on whether or not your party is in the minority. We'll dive into that. No sweat. But along with filibuster talk, we'll talk about the federal home COVID testing plan. How much longer is it going to take to actually get this here? And updates on the January 6th Select Committee with his own reflections on January 6th, which is, a year and 6 days ago. That's at 7:15, 7:35. Congressman Garret Graves is going to be on with us for a second installment of DC Current. Congressman Graves can be talking about a lot of the federal dollars that he has secured to bring back home to the 6th Congressional District and how those dollars should or will be applied. In the 8 o'clock hour, speaking of how dollars should be applied, Dave Ramsey joins us at 8:15. He's got a new book out. It's called Baby Step Millionaires. What's that all about? Is it any different from his overall message? And quite honestly, I want to talk to Dave a little bit about growing his team. If you listen to the Dave Ramsey Show regularly, well, first and foremost, if you listen to the Dave Ramsey Show regularly, you know that it's now just called The Ramsey Show. And it seems to be more of a team effort at this point, which is fantastic because as wonderful as Dave is, hearing the different perspectives working the same system, finding a way to work that system through a number of different paths, I've taken so much from that. Want to pick his brain about that a little bit and a few other things as well. That's at 8:15. 8:40, Chris Nakomoto from WBRZ is going to be on board. We are going to talk about this this revolving door of crime. And his story last night, it wasn't anything groundbreaking as far as what we haven't known already. But his story last night was a stark reminder of, hey, every time this happens again, why are we surprised? That's all coming your way throughout the day. Got to lead off the show this morning, though, with a reminder. A group of teachers in East Baton Rouge plans to skip classes today in protest of current COVID protocols at the parish's public schools. The East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators held a news conference yesterday afternoon and sent a list of demands and potential solutions to EBR's Superintendent Cito Narcisse. Narcisse told our news partners at WBRZ it's unclear exactly how many teachers will be out today, but classes will go on as planned. Other certified faculty are expected to be on campus to help fill any holes in staffing. The group said the sick-out plan for today is in response to, quote, startling increases in COVID cases at schools across the state. So ridiculous. If you have a large number of COVID cases at schools in, I don't know, say, Caddo Parish, you totally should have a sick-out in Baton Rouge, right? If you've got a large number of COVID cases at schools in New Orleans, you totally should have a sick-out in Baton Rouge. The statement in full reads, the East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators, with the support of the Louisiana Association of Educators, will hold a press conference, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it was yesterday afternoon, 4:30. The purpose of the event is to discuss a list of demands and solutions to the rampant COVID-19 cases and staff shortages in the East Baton Rouge Parish School District. A letter was sent to Superintendent Narcisse outlining the requests. Educators have organized a sick out on Wednesday, January 12th, to show their commitment to the health and safety of students and staff as COVID-19 cases have shown startling increases in personnel shortages. I'm looking through the email to see if they can cite how startling those cases are. Like, do we have a number? President of the EBRPAE, Valencia Johnson, said that the time is now to protect students and educators and help mitigate the spread of COVID-19 in East Baton Rouge Parish schools. Johnson will also be speaker for this afternoon. Over 350 educators are prepared to participate in the day of action to put pressure on the superintendent to convert to virtual learning in the district until cases go down significantly. EBRPAE, that's the East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators, and the Louisiana Association of Educators, sent a letter to Superintendent Narcisse outlining their concerns. They sent the letter Monday afternoon. So expect that sick out today. Not a whole lot's going to get done at school. All right, we're due up for a quick break. When we come back, we're talking sports. LSU men's basketball is at it again tonight. We'll have a little bit for you next on Talk 107.3. Breaks coming your way right after I tell you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Oh! You thought the end of the year sale prices were the end of it? No, sir. Plenty going on to start off the year at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Like a twin gel memory foam mattress for $149.99. Like a full gel memory foam mattress for just $199. By the way, tax time is here. Don't forget about that. If you're going to make use of your refund later on, you got 2 more weeks before we can actually file? You get top name brand mattresses, a regular queen mattress. A queen mattress regularly $8.99, marked down to $3.99. King can be marked all the way down to $5.99. A California king mattress and adjustable base, got it on sale, packaged together at $24.99. 2 locations at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. 4065 Florida Boulevard in Mid-City. 4065 Florida Boulevard in Mid-City, or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2 down in the southeastern corner of the parish. Mitch Kibble and his team, they've got sales going on right now at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Good morning. I got your text just as I was starting the show. Sorry. If the temperature were a little colder, I would have sent Jake down anyway. But you would say you were in before I
Assistant, does Demco really send students to Washington, D.C.? Here's what I found on that. High school juniors can enter the 2022 Demco Essay Contest, and winners will receive an all-expenses-paid trip of a lifetime to Washington, D.C. Hope I'm not too late. When's the deadline? Entries are due by January 21st. So, how can I get more information? For rules and info, visit demco.org. Demco, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative. Picture this. You're trying to hire someone or find something, and you click on their website, but it takes forever to load and looks, well, horrible. So what do? You probably move on. If you're concerned that just described your website, you should call us. We're GatorWorks.
Hi, Jolie Pearl, slice of New Orleans and Baton Rouge, featuring oysters cooked 11 different ways. Try our bestseller, the brie and bacon oyster, as well as boudin and barbecue those. Different grilled oyster for $1.25. Jolie Pearl, downtown, 315 North Boulevard, in the heart of Town Square. Visit them online at jolieoysterbar.com. Hey, it's Matt Moscona reminding about our friends
All right, let's see if I can figure out how to do this without.
just south of campus, Blue Bonnet, right in front of the Mall of Louisiana, with 24 flavors of award-winning jumbo chicken wings, ice-cold draft beer, full-service bar, and sports on TV. There's something going on at Fluckers every night of the week. Every Monday is all-you-can-eat wings. Tuesday, kids eat free. Wednesday, trivia. Thursday, all-you-can-eat boneless wings. It's always a great night to get by Fluckers. Nicholson or Blue Bonnet, remember, at Fluckers, if you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird. Now, your BRZ traffic update from Ashley Boucher.
Now I'm going to have to run back upstairs again in our next break. We are way, way late. 619 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP. Let's dive right into it. LSU men's basketball back at it tonight. Road game at Florida. Senior point guard Xavier Pinson. They're going to be without him. He has an injured knee. That means sophomore guard Eric Gaines is just going to have to step up. Coach Wade says he's also counting on freshman Justice Williams. Excuse me.
We expect him to step in and play well. We brought him here because he's a really good player. We brought him here because we believe in him. And, we wouldn't have played him at Auburn if we didn't think he was ready to go. And he was certainly ready to go, and he's learned from that, and I think he'll be even better tomorrow night. So we have a lot of confidence in him.
Williams has only played in 3 games so far this season because of a foot injury. I want to say the first game he played was the Kentucky game, if I'm not mistaken. No, the Auburn game. Anyway, he stepped right in and was just brilliant in his performance. Tip-off is at 6 o'clock tonight on our sister station, Eagle 98.1.
A big report on inflation is coming out this morning. It's expected to show inflation on track to have closed out the year near its highest level since 1982. GM is getting into the used car business, taking aim at Carvana and Rouge with its own used car website. It's called CarBravo, and it's meant to help U.S.-based GM dealers market and sell used cars online. And supply chain issues have hit KFC in Australia, which is short on chicken. Fast food chain having to cut some menu items. According to the Australian Chicken Meat Federation, nationwide staff shortages from key businesses in the supply chain. It says there's plenty of chicken on farms, but just not enough people to pick them up, process them, and distribute chicken products.
Still using the other cap?
That's your Fox
No.
report. I'm Lillian Wu, invested in you.
Hey, morning, Christy. What's happening, sweetheart? Had a little scare this morning. There's a wreck not too far away from the house. Had to make sure she wasn't in that wreck. All right, I'm going to be back in 2 seconds. I got to go run upstairs to the printer. Hopefully this works.
Your path to recovery in a brand new life is now closer than ever before. Introducing the Grove Recovery Center in Ascension Parish. This is a safe place to learn how to successfully live sober and maintain sobriety. The Grove is a residential campus where the journey to a new you and brighter future begins, offering multiple levels of care and recovery in a style unique to our state. Call 225-310-2600 night or day. The Grove Recovery Center. Recovery designed for you. 310-2600.
Looking for some time away but don't want to go too far? Nope. The Cook Hotel at LSU is just what you've been searching for. Book your getaway today and enjoy a peaceful escape overlooking the University Lake in any of their luxurious guest rooms or suites. Their newly renovated bar is back open for service, and they're located near some of the best restaurants in town. Visit thecookhotel.com or call 225-383-2665 to book your stay today.
I know you've been waiting a little bit longer than normal. Jen's manicure spot needs an extra pair of hands. Who's at the front desk right now? Someone who's handy with everything from mail files to spreadsheet files. Deidre's not coming in today, but we have that whole bachelorette. Indeed can help her hire great people fast. I need Indeed. Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get some
All right, let's try this again.
sponsored job. Terms and conditions. Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel
This will work. That will work. It's just not going to be good.
14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to babbel.com to try for
No, that doesn't cut it.
BEL.com.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Rouge.
Driving around town, not so bad. Light volume on interstate systems, and the Plaquemine Ferry is in service. So the main boat is running this morning from the street there. Looking good on I-12. No delays so far this morning. 8 minutes reached I-12 and also 7 from the Twin Tower 1. Monitoring a crash in the Goodwood area. Goodwood at Hazelwood.
624, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Legally Served with attorney Franz Borghardt is going to be coming your way in just a little bit. One of the topics we'll be talking about is a headline at WBRZ. Leaders seek to end multiple bonds for repeat offenders, collaborating on a fix. Is there an answer here? Is there anything that actually can be done? Or is what it is? One of the things the chief had to say when he was on the show yesterday is, well, first of all, he said everybody could do a better job. Actually, I believe his words were, we can all do a better job, which would include his own department for sure. But it also includes everybody throughout the judicial process. And is there an answer? We'll dive into that a little bit more than 10 minutes from right now when attorney Franz Borghardt is in. We're also going to be talking about another story that involved BRPD. This one from, I believe it was last week. The headline reads, Judge sides with lawyer who filed suit against City of Baton Rouge for use of BRPD body cam footage that showcased the juvenile. We'll dive into both of those. Right now, though, got another name in that Senate race. There to take on current Senator John Kennedy. Activist Gary Chambers launches campaign for U.S. Senate. Going to have to get Gary on the show to talk about his candidacy. This is an interesting move for Gary for a couple of different reasons. Not the least of which is he's run for office before and come up short. And it seems that every time he runs for office and comes up short, he puts his eyes on a bigger prize the next time around. The story, as reported by WBRZ, activist and former candidate for Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District, Gary Chambers, has launched his campaign for the U.S. Senate in Louisiana's open primary to defeat Senator John Kennedy. Chambers says he plans to run and serve with a people-centered approach, champion perspectives and policies that reflect his experiences working directly with communities across the state. Some of his key issues, passing economic aid for the people of Louisiana, like Biden's Build Back Better Act, guaranteeing the voting rights of all U.S. citizens through voting reform initiatives, advocating for Medicare for all at a national level so that no one has to go without proper medical care. Those are the three main points that the story listed. I'm sure once we get Gary on the show, he will have a ton more to talk about. He says, no Louisianan is alone. There are more of us ready to help our neighbors and lift our communities to give us all a fair shot at a bright future and prosperous life here in the state. If we work together, we can bring real change to Louisiana. Chambers believes he can raise money to back his campaign and connect with people across the state to win their vote, knocking off the Republican incumbent. Luke Mixon from Bunkie is also Luke Mixon of Bunkie is also in the race. Mixon has a military background, fighter pilot, graduated from the Naval Academy. Back to Chambers, though. He's got a decent enough following here in Baton Rouge, and he grew his name a little bit in New Orleans through the run for the 2nd Congressional District race. But at a certain point, he's going to have to ask himself, why don't I make a tactical retreat in my aspirations, land an actual job, and build a resume? I believe he ran for state senate first. Pretty sure that's what the first race he ran was, state senate. Then the second, was it state rep? No. This was sorry, I'm talking with Franz off air as well. I'll dig back up what it was. Ran for, I'm pretty sure it was state senate, and then it was the 2nd Congressional District, and now the U.S. Senate. It feels like he's failing upward. I mean, if you come up short here, do you run for president? Or, as of right now, there's a Metro Council seat available. And I know Metro Council sounds like small potatoes when it's compared to the U.S. Senate. But it's something tangible where you can hold the post and affect change. Gary likes to say, do good and seek justice. That's kind of his motto. It's catchy, isn't it? Do good and seek justice. I like it. But unless you're holding down the gig, how much good are you getting done? Erica Green's moving on to judge. District 5 is open. I'm not 1,000% sure that's his district, but I'm pretty sure. Shoot for something attainable. We'll talk about with him when he comes on the show. Meanwhile, we got to take a break. We're coming up on our CBS News, our local news, traffic, weather, and the like. Attorney Franz Borghardt's coming up next. Hey, don't forget, 8:15 this morning, Dave Ramsey is on with us. Dave Ramsey is going to join us to talk about his new book, Baby Step Millionaires. You're all familiar with the Baby Step program. Tell you what, we got a couple copies to give away. We're going to do that before the show's over with as well. We got Congressman Troy Carter. We got Congressman Garret Graves. We got Chris Nakomoto. That's all coming your way later on in the show. Next, however, Attorney Franz Borghardt. But before we get to Franz, we're going to have to check news. We're going to have to check traffic. We're going to have to check weather. That's all coming your way next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Oh, hey, don't forget, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you could be, because I'm guaranteeing you right now, as Franz steps over to the microphone, the conversation continues. All right. Regina Barrow's seat, maybe?
Yeah, it was local. I thought council for some reason.
I mean, it would make sense to me. If you want to do something, if you want to bloviate and raise money, then just run for emperor.
300,000 followers and a lot of people active on social media, Instagram, and whatnot. Every time he runs for office, I'm assuming he's not spending his own money to run.
No.
And it's just an expansion of the brand.
Right.
And if he runs in uphill battles where there is a long shot, I think to some degree he can say, well, I fought the good fight. This was always a long shot.
Okay, but he follows up a long shot with a longer shot. He ran for state senate and couldn't get backing of the Democratic Party within the state. State Senate. Who did he lose to? He actually showed out pretty well.
I think he's been showing out pretty well.
Not the second district. That was a foolish move. He won't say. I mean, he was able to tap into a new base to grow his tribe, to grow his social media tribe. But what did he get? 10% of the vote, I think.
I think his day job is he runs a publication, correct? I don't know if he's
the Rouge collection, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still doing that or not, but good morning, everybody.
Yeah, Regina Barrow's district. Nailed it. All right, I need to go see if she had a chance to print this. I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
What's happening, Mario? What's up, Ray? Oh, nothing at all. Good morning.
LPV Executive Director Linda Midget says in an effort to raise the vaccination rate in Louisiana, they've launched a social media campaign called Let's Save Mardi Gras.
We have an original song called Save Mardi Gras, and Leonard Augustus did a really fun dance. The dance is available on TikTok.
Just upload your video on social media and who knows?
Really like your dance. We might actually put it over here.
Visit lpv.org/Save Mardi Gras. I'm Brooke Thorrington.
Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
No issues traveling on our interstates this morning. Looks great out there. A lot of green on the map. Close-up shot of the bridge shows no issues if you're traveling, maybe exiting at Nicholson. Highway 30 looks good. Gabriel. 6 minutes right now from the 1012 to LA1, passing through Baton Rouge, not bad, and traveling toward it from Livingston 9 if you start your drive around Range Avenue. So no problems for our Livingston drivers, and coming in from Ascension, also quiet. Outbound looking good, 45 to Lafayette, 50 to Kenner. Earlier this morning we saw some delays in the Kenner area, but it was mostly westbound.
See an accident?
Da, 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 da.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where
So, tomorrow's my birthday. January 13th, tomorrow. Hey, Clinton, Renee, Galen, Eric, Byron, Kev. Good question, Clinton. I like Tatawahi's as an everyday cigar, as well as Steve Saka's Umbagogs. Shout out to the
naming
folks.
planets from Star Wars.
No, Clinton asked me a question while you were trying to find a printer that works. Umbagogs. Shout out to Havana Port. If you go in there and tell them you know me, they'll hook you up.
Bro!
By the way, you need a printer in this room. That would be a life hack that I think
You had me at you need a printer.
in this room or in that room.
Well,
would
there
give me
used to be
a-
one out there. Okay.
So tomorrow's my birthday.
I did not know that.
I mean, I'm celebrating the month of January, but
Yes.
but, I was thinking 30 days of games.
30 days of games.
In the Coliseum to honor my birthday. Yes, Havana Port's on Perkins Road. Great cigar shop, great cigar lounge. Excellent selection, Clinton. And thank you for the happy birthday. I see what you did there. You had Chief Paul on the radio, then it was on WBRZ, and then we're talking about the article.
And the Nakomoto will be on at 8:40.
What you doing?
It's called advancing the story.
I
It's a
like
very
it.
professional move by
Yeah,
me.
you're like an investigative journalist and
Oh,
stuff.
shit. I don't have those chops.
Brian Haldane's going to be showing up to prisons with a camera and a microphone when people are bonding out next.
Can I ask you about these receipts? No. That ain't my bag, baby. I say you said Mathurns? All right, listen.
It's time for Legally Served with attorney Franz Borghardt. An open discussion about how the law applies to this. You not only insult me, but you insulted Ted. Guilty.
The defense is wrong.
But somebody in this courtroom is. I'm being charged with a crime. Is that what this is? I'm being charged with a crime. Legally served.
Yeah, it's time for Legally Served. Time to welcome in attorney Franz Borghardt. Franz, what's happening, man?
Just here for you and the listeners, the people of Baton Rouge. Just trying to provide a service.
We have a special little surprise coming up when we take a break.
Okay,
by
good
the
deal.
way.
Good
yeah,
deal.
yeah. That's coming your way. Once we hit the break at 50, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you might want to check that out. I got to make sure the logistics are handled to do that. So, where do you want to start today? We got two different stories, both of which have a common thread tied between them.
So, you had the chief on yesterday, right?
Uh-huh.
And y'all were talking about, hey, we need to do something about this, and I'm going to use my term here, a revolving door system where somebody bonds out, they get rearrested, they bond out, they get rearrested while on bond, and the cycle continues.
Yes.
We need to do better.
We all do. Yes, yeah.
Well, except me.
Well,
Because arguably I'm a part of the...
yes, if we didn't have good defense attorneys,
I'll
it wouldn't be
keep-
killing more
hey,
people, Franz.
Hey, Baton Rouge, I'll keep doing me. So, I don't... he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
So it is a condition of bond. When you make bond, when you're accused of any crime, one of the conditions is it's a box that's checked. will not commit any crime, will not get arrested for committing any crime. Now, the problem is you get arrested for robbery, you make bond, and then you get arrested for speeding. Not that anyone ever gets arrested for speeding. Well, then we can look at that situation and say, okay, I mean, that's not really the same thing as you getting arrested for another robbery, right, or a violent crime.
Right.
So, the chief's not wrong on this one. And maybe the criminal justice folks in the system, the judges, the DA's office, the chief, they need to have a sit-down talk about the way the bond system works in terms of when somebody gets rearrested.
You get arrested for one crime, you bond out. You get arrested again, no bond. Is that possible?
Well, it's not an automatic. What would happen is you could say, look, before setting a bond, I'm going to set this for a hearing, kind of like the Gwynn's Law, where you're going to delay letting them automatically have a bond to where.
Where did we see Gwynn's Law?
Gwynn's Law is domestic.
Yeah.
So you could put the ball in the defendant's court of saying, I'm going to give you a bond determination, but you're going to have to show me why you got rearrested. You getting rearrested shouldn't mean you're excluded from having a new bond.
Okay.
And again, I think it's a case-by-case basis in the sense of you get arrested for domestic abuse battery.
Mm-hmm.
And then subsequent to that, you get arrested for a DWI. Are those two crimes connected? Well, not necessarily, but they may be connected in the sense that maybe both crimes have a common denominator in them. You get arrested for a string of burglaries, and then you get a DWI. Well, wait a minute. Should we make that person not be able to have a bond out? I think the point of this is the violent offenders getting bonded out and then committing or at least getting arrested, which, by the way, we need to be clear on this. We're talking not about being convicted for new crimes. We're talking about getting arrested for new crimes. I think that's a little easier, right? I don't think it should be an automatic thing. I think it should be we need to have something in place that analyzes, okay, why is Brian being treated this way, and then why is Gary going to be treated this way, and is it a case-by-case basis? But something that slows the bonding process down to where we have to make that determination.
So what kind of evidence would need to go into a determination to not find a connection but a common denominator?
Well, the common denominator is you've been arrested for not one but multiple crimes, right, or two crimes. I think it's a hearing. I think it's a hearing before a judge where the DA's office can have an opportunity to look at it. You have a right to counsel, and the judge can make an educated and informed decision of, okay, you don't need to be out on bond. You showed that you can't be out on bond versus, hey, you have a really bad drug problem. And you got arrested over here for possession of whatever narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
And you got arrested again for possession of narcotics. And we know that you have a really bad drug problem. So maybe instead of not letting you make bond, maybe we need to have a conversation about getting you into an inpatient facility. So I'm not saying, I'm not saying that the chief is wrong. I am actually, as a criminal defense attorney, I'm all on board on you making it harder for people to get out of jail.
Yeah, unless
That
you're
just
going to
gives
church
me
on Sunday
something.
morning.
That just gives me something more to do. Thank you, Baton Rouge.
But that's all fine and good. And one of the other things the chief had to say yesterday was a lot of the crime in Baton Rouge, the violent crime, is targeted. It's very targeted.
Okay.
So if you,
that's a different conversation, though, right?
But and a lot of criminals leave clues, hints, whatever, on social media that they're going to do that.
Telegraphing, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Can that factor into the equation?
Sure. It all can come in. It's a bond hearing. It's not a trial. It's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just a bond hearing.
Okay.
We're going to decide if whether or not. I think the initial bond, when you get arrested, we need to mainstream that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can have a justice reform conversation later about should bonds should it be like the federal system here, where you don't have to post a financial bond, but instead you're released on your own recognizance.
Mm-hmm.
If you fail to show up, you owe the money. That's a different conversation. But I think you just have a bond hearing on a subsequent arrest where a judge has to decide, did your subsequent criminal arrest exclude you from the possibility of being able to have a bond? It's not complicated beyond the fact that we have limited resources. So we assume, and look, I'm not a sympathist, but we assume that the government has all this power and all these resources. Well, the truth is, We're limited on the number of officers we have. We're limited in the number of prosecutors we have. There's only a finite number of judges, and look, our arrest rate here is pretty freaking high.
Yes.
So it requires a little bit more work. It requires a little bit more oversight, but it's doable.
Okay, so you talk about the limited resources. I'm glad you brought that up because the district attorney's office is over 200 cases backlogged. A lot of that's had to do with COVID. But if it's the same people committing the same crimes over and over again, if one person is 8 different cases, by locking them down, can't you eliminate a lot more all in one fell swoop?
Theoretically, you will reduce crime
Right.
by getting the quote-unquote bad apples off the street, repeatedly being on the street. But at the end of the day, we need to figure out a better way of doing this. You know, the legislature could step in and say that on a subsequent arrest, these are the things that need to happen. That's what they did with Gwynn's Law. The judges like a mini emperor or empress. They get to decide how they set their bond. And if the judge says, if this is a bond request that is occurring when you were already out on bond, I'm going to require you to have a hearing, sir or madam. I'm going to require you to present to me why you violated a condition of my bond that I set and why you should be allowed a second opportunity to get out. And there will be, look, to be sure, there will be instances where a judge will be convinced that, okay, well, this is not, you violated the conditions of bond, but this is different. We need to get you into treatment. Or this new arrest was totally unrelated to the first arrest. Your first arrest was a violent crime. Your second arrest was, jaywalking. Not that jaywalking people get arrested for, but I'm using that as an extreme example.
Right.
So we can do it. We can set this up. We have the tools to do it. We just kind of need to do it.
Let's talk about where the responsibility actually lies on that. And I want to ask you another question that it might be difficult to get an answer on. And that question, I'm
an open book, baby.
Well, we'll see about that in just a minute.
I answer questions for you.
Are some judges worse than others, and what's it going to take to call individual judges out? We're going to address that next. Right now, we're going to break. Your Money Now on Talk 107.3.
Worse than others is not the right word. Are some judges better than others in terms of oversighting their bonds?
What I found on that. High school juniors can enter the 2022 Demco Essay Contest, and winners will receive an all-expenses.
Hey, Byron, if you want to put them in the federal system, I do federal work too. Do it. Let's go.
Jake, check your email. Okay.
By January 21st. So, how can I get more information?
Get it ready for
For rules and info, visit demco.org. Demco, your touchstone energy cooperative.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ruben Patel, Patient Plus Urgent Care, and I'm excited to announce the opening of our newest location, Patient Plus Program, on Oak Plaza near Walmart. We're here 7 days a week, 9 to 9. Patient Plus Urgent Care. Get in, get better.
You know, if I were judge, I'd clean up this town. That's not really the judge's job to clean up the town, but if I were judge, if I ran for office, if that ever were to happen, that Franz Borghardt would run for office, and that probably will never happen, but if it did, I'd clean up this town.
Which judge spot would you run for? Where's my text thread with Nakomoto's? Oh, bro.
as quickly as I asked about Gwynn's Law, I realized where I'd heard about it recently.
What about Social Security, Medicare, taxes, stock market ups and downs? Get your retirement questions answered with Your Money Now.
Byron, I appreciate you with the Daredevil.
Talk 107.3 FM.
You going to Rotary today?
Just to eat.
That's kind of what I do. I do the walkthrough, I wave. I'm like, hey guys, what's up?
Yeah, I want to stick around because I would really like to hear
Who's today? Baseball coach?
Baseball coach. No, where I heard about Gwynn's Law recently was Kevin.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see.
Well, that's not squeezed down too much, is it?
If I were Spencer, I might be like, hey guys, WTF?
Well, you can't have that much spot on the front end of it.
So I've got some commercial time. I just had a moment.
Why?
I got some commercial time with the Go Rouge show.
Yeah, you do.
I'm gonna have a challenge for Brian Haldane.
Uh-oh.
Brian Haldane is gonna come. The commercial time for one commercial is how many seconds?
30 or 60.
30 to 60.
Well, like the whole break. Thing
I
would be
want to
a
see what
4.
Brian Haldane comes up with for a Borghardt law firm commercial. Just.
Oh, you don't want this.
No, I think it would be a fun challenge.
I'm going to have copyright infringement within.
So there are certain ethical rules of advertising, which we need to talk about one week. About you can't. There has to be. There's no guarantees. There can't be certain things, but you need to. I'm just giving you a fun project.
Here we go. Troy sent this over to me.
Yeah, I've seen that one before.
Okay.
God bless,
Bless
you.
you. Oh yeah, if I were writing you, yeah. You want me to keep it all a surprise until it airs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, we would air it on the Go Rouge show. And
Yeah.
a bit on the Go Rouge show.
Yeah.
And then I got to make sure it passes.
Can
the
this
ethics
be
rules.
next week when I'm back around?
Yeah,
Because I
no
think
hurry.
you're going to have somebody else this week.
Who do I have this week?
Uh,
Who do I have this week?
Probably Taylor.
Oh, I love my Taylor time.
I'm hoping it's Taylor. I'm going to be out of town.
Okay. That's okay. Taylor's a good guy. The other story that we may not have time to talk about, I got to tell you, that's a serious story. That federal judge came down pretty hard on the parish attorney's office and the testifying attorney, short of saying she perjured herself. That is very serious. And I'm not trying. I have no war with the parish attorney's office, but that is a serious thing. That's the one where they were trying to hold the attorney in Virginia in contempt of court for quote unquote releasing a video.
Diving right back in to Legally Serve, part of Mornings with Brian Haldane, attorney Franz, Borghardt, and I rolling right along, talking about the topic of that revolving door of crime. What you said those were your terms. It's actually the phrase that Nakomoto used in his story last night as a revolving door of crime.
Oh, nice. Chris and I have something in common.
You know? Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about this is all going to boil down to judges. I mean, obviously, when it all comes down to it, judges are going to have discretion here, right?
So unless the legislature makes a law that dictates how they are going to address these repeat arrests, these bond violations, these subsequent arrests, each judge is like an emperor or empress.
Mm-hmm.
Their courtroom is like their own little fiefdom.
Yes.
And yes, they get to make the decisions on how they handled their cases.
Okay.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Oh, we were supposed to hit that during the break.
Yeah.
That was from
so-
that guy. We'll
so-
talk about it during news.
So your question before we went to break is, are there some judges that, I'm paraphrasing you, because this
Are there some judges that
this
are
is
worse
a
than
delicate,
others?
This is a delicate topic.
No, I know.
for me.
I know. You're after you leave
so
here,
the
you're going to have to
answer
be in
is-
front of him.
The answer is yes. Some judges are exceptionally good at safeguarding the bond and the repeat arrest, and some are not.
Mm-hmm.
Some would say it's not my job, it's the DA's office's job to file a motion to revoke bond. It's the DA's office job to catch this. So there is a little bit of quiet finger pointing that happens. The truth of the matter is, though, remember, the judge, we can't just assume that a judge knows that Brian has been arrested a second or third time. The judge has to be told this. Because if you think your number, I mean, if you think a prosecutor's caseload is backlogged, if you think a public defender's case is backlogged, the judge presides over everything.
Mm-hmm.
So part of the system there needs to be a mechanism to inform the judge, hey, just so you know, this guy was out on bond and he got arrested subsequent to that. Then it's on the judge's shoulders. And the judge can say, look, before I set a bond on this new arrest, we need to have a conversation. We need to do some talking. And so, yes, but guess what? Who elects the judges?
We do.
The people.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry. That's what it is.
No.
You don't like the judges in this town? Guess what? Find a better cowboy or cowgirl.
Well, here's the thing, though, is like I don't know that I've voted for. Well, there's a couple of them, but
that's just
number one.
That's just because I haven't run.
Number one is that just means that you've only got to fit. That's like when they say, "Well, you voted to increase the cats tax." Like, no, I didn't, but it still got passed. And the number of people who voted for the judge that would have other interests.
People don't necessarily vote for their judge candidates based on the most qualified.
Correct.
We know in politics that the most qualified candidate doesn't always get elected.
I can tell you every election season, as we have as many candidates on this show as possible, it's the toughest interview to do is interview judges because they're all running for a different type of court, and it all involves a different skill set. It's a different beast, a different animal, whatever you want to say. And it knowing the qualifications, knowing what you actually need to succeed in the job, it changes from post to post, and it's not the most translatable. It's not something that you should. It'd be like running for surgeon. It'd be like running for a job where you need a particular set of skills.
It's a popularity contest.
It is.
Good Nicolas Cage. But it's.
I was Liam Neeson. Was it that bad?
Yeah. But they sound a little bit alike.
I didn't dive into the accent.
The other thing is you have judges that make commercials with inmates to run for office.
Mm-hmm.
And then, justice is all about balance. You judges shouldn't be too far on either side of the coin. It's about balance.
Okay. Whoa. You just brought up. Oh, I wanted to get to this other topic, but you just brought up a whole new Pandora's box here. If it's all about balance, and right now the pendulum is swinging way to one side.
We need to move it to the center.
You can't, though.
Why not?
It's how a pendulum works. A pendulum doesn't go way to one side and just come back to the middle and stop. It swings back the other way.
So what I've suggested to you, and I'm not, these judges, these decision makers didn't say, hey, Franz, you're a really smart guy. You seem to know what you're doing in the criminal justice system. You've been in here 15 years, 16 years. Why don't you come to the table and give me some of your ideas? They haven't asked me my opinion. I'm telling you the solution is case-by-case basis on a subsequent arrest. There needs to be a conversation between the prosecutor's office, the DA's office, and the defense attorney as to why in the world am I letting this person back out? And if there's a good reason, and we vet it, there's a good reason, well, I sleep a little bit better at night.
Yeah, the only part I disagree with on it is the conversation. There should be a metric.
I mean a
there
hearing.
Should be I know. We'd still allow for human error unless we have some kind of checklist that shows what they've done in the past, the risk reward.
Let me be very specific. A full-blown bond hearing that contemplates criminal history, facts of the instant arrest, facts of the previous arrest, what was going on? Is there some kind of extenuating circumstance, addiction to a substance, some kind of massive life event? What is going on that you're going out and getting arrested again? That's what I mean, a full-blown hearing.
2 minutes left.
Yeah, sure.
Judge sides with lawyer who filed suit against City of Baton Rouge for use of BRPD body cam footage that showcased the juvenile.
Huge black eye on the parish attorney's office.
How is this any bigger than just a whoopsie?
No, dude. Huge black eye. Huge. Federal judge coming down on that office like that, basically saying that you're a bunch of hypocrites, which is what judge said. Federal judge, really good federal judge, basically said, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. You want to sue this Virginia attorney for, quote-unquote, leaking the video, but there's all these other people that you didn't sue or try not sue, get held in contempt. You want to put them in jail. But all these other people you didn't want to do that on. And you really don't have a good reason. When the judge was asking the parish attorney this, she didn't really have a good answer. This was stupid. The parish attorney's office should never have filed a motion for contempt. It was just bad mojo. So that's just yeah.
We're going to pick this conversation back up on YouTube, which if you're not watching on YouTube, hop on there and subscribe while you're there. When we hit our news break at the top of the hour, we got just enough time to mention what's on Go Rouge this week.
Got the Junior League coming on. The League.
No way.
The League.
What made you want to reach out to the Junior League? Never heard of it.
They got a good leadership conference coming up in March with old girl from ESPN commentating. I can't think of her name right now. Andrews. The ESPN women's commentator.
Okay.
She's going to be the featured speaker there. I really it bothers me that I can't think of her name.
Erin Andrews.
Erin Andrews. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
so
Andrews.
she's not with ESPN anymore, but she used to be. She
Okay,
kind of made her bones over at ESPN.
But the fact that I knew
Yeah.
that she was a sports commentator.
Go Rouge, Friday at 6, right after the Jay Cody show. He's attorney Franz Borghardt. We do Legally Served every week. Stick around on YouTube. We're going to talk about this judge siding with a lawyer who filed suit against the city of Baton Rouge. Here comes CBS News on air. All right. So a judge sided with a Louisiana lawyer who sued Baton Rouge City Parish Mayor President Sharon Westenbroom and Police Chief Murphy Paul over the release of body cam footage showcasing a juvenile being frisked during a traffic stop in January of 2020. The civil action filed Friday by lawyer Thomas Frampton was an effort to not be held in contempt of juvenile court for releasing dash cam and body cam video footage taken by BRPD officers, which allegedly documents misconduct by BRPD and captures the arrest and search of a juvenile. So, if I'm understanding this right, the lawyer leaked the footage.
No.
No?
The lawyer took something that had already been released, was already out there in the universe, and simply played it. And they tried to use an obscure juvenile children's code law to say he should be held in contempt. It was very hypocritical of them. And by the way, they arguably did the same thing. But here's the thing. Why are they spending so much? It's a Jeff Landry move. Why are they spending so much energy going after something over here that has nothing to do? They don't really have the standing to do this. That has nothing to do with their day in and day out operations. And look, I have a great deal of respect for the parish attorney's office. I don't bash them nearly as much as I do the AG's office. How often do you hear me bashing the parish attorney's office?
This is the first time.
Yeah. If this was this is a black eye on the parish attorney's office. Cookie jar.
What was it that...
This
I'm
was
having
the
trouble
gun-
remembering
this was
this
the gun
case.
case where they strip searched the juveniles in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Now, they did find a gun on the juvenile.
Okay, now I remember this case. Yes.
Yeah.
It was all over the fact that they strip searched a juvenile, and I
In
was
broad
like,
daylight.
How did you miss the fact that they actually did find the gun they were looking for?
Well, originally when the video got released, you didn't know that. So
yeah.
So
What's up, Rich? Yeah.
Franz, you looking good, bro.
Thank you, man.
Bet you look good naked too. Look, big. Little projects that more bounce to the ounce. Thought of you every time. I thought of you. Hey, the stupidest freaking question I've ever heard a grown man ask anybody is Baton Rouge a tourist attraction? I can't wait to go off on that crap.
Wait, I haven't even seen this one yet.
Oh yeah. It's on AFB.com. Arrigo's asking. They're doing a survey. Holy
Oh no, I had Arrigo on about that survey.
shit. I can't wait to go off on that.
do you think New Orleans is a tourist attraction?
Not for me.
Right.
When you're born there and worked in a quarter, hell no.
You worked in the court. You worked at Baton Leon, didn't you?
In the BMO house. All right, I'm out.
So hey, Haggai sent this over. It's the Franz.
Oh, look at that.
He's trying so hard.
Franzi like Fonzie.
Haggai needs to focus on getting those numbers up.
I
Focus.
mean,
Haggai needs. It's a piss poor Photoshop job, by the way.
I'm telling you this. Dave, you can't stop them. All you can do is hope to contain them. I'm telling you that right now, dude. Hey, Frank, you want to hook up and get an IPA soon? Or what? What's an IPA? We'll get one. What's an IPA? I got people I can ask who can get the best one time. Huh, babe? You want
yes, you do. Hey, Gary Chambers is running for Senate. You want to hold a campaign rally? Gary Chambers running for Senate.
Steve Myers, who would I vote for? Wait, that's a good question. Who's running the most elections and finished pretty much dead last?
He didn't finish last. He finished like fourth.
After you run a couple of times and you don't win, you need to look in the mirror and grab your nuts. Come on, Haldane. Hey. Somebody said we got a hot air balloon dealer down in Prairie.
It's a weird day. It is a weird day around here today. All right, okay, I've got two more interviews I haven't even prepped for yet. By the way, did you see on the rundown we got an interview at 9 o'clock too? Going to be YouTube bonus. Ever heard of William Klaber? got a true crime podcast called the MLK Tapes. I can't wait for this. We got a full 15 minutes with him. So if you got a jet, if you want a jet, like start us up on Adobe, and that's us. Cool. Yeah, I got to get my Ramsey stuff. Let me go get some. Catherine Childers is going to join me at 8:55. I don't have that on the rundown, so I didn't have her name last night. Got a thing going on with the marathon that we're going to talk about. Yeah. Yes, it is. This is all shit. Gotcha. No. Not that I know of. Oh, 8:55 is, yeah. Bum, 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 bum. $7:06. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. We got a bonus DC current this hour, back to back. Oh, it's a congressional power hour here. Congressman Troy Carter at 7:15. Congressman Garret Graves at 7:35. We're going to have the outside in rounding out the hour. Hey, you heard it from Marissa right there. High is 60 today. Overnight lows getting down to 37 again tonight. I keep looking at the weekend forecast to see what the Louisiana Marathon is going to bring us or what's going to be brought about when the Louisiana Marathon gets here. And we're now up to an 80% chance of rain on Saturday. Not looking good for the shorter races, the 5K, the 10K, the kids mile, and all that other stuff. However, it is still looking good on Sunday morning, which Sunday morning is when the marathon and the half marathon are. So those that would be traveling to town looking like they're going to start at about 39 degrees at the beginning of the race on Sunday morning. More on the marathon as it gets closer to being here. But yeah, it just looks like Saturday, you've got some level of chance of rain basically all day long Saturday. So, again, you never really want to predict weather more than a couple hours out in Louisiana, much less a couple days. So we'll take a look at it again as it gets closer. Hey, LSU basketball is at Florida tonight, but you'll hear it on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. I'm going to be producing the basketball game, which means I'm going to be on campus, which means I know where I'm getting my dinner tonight. Matherns Market, Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive, Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. So I got weigh-in at Go Slim coming up on Friday, which means when I walk through the front door of Matherns, I'm going to have to resist that urge of grabbing another king cake. Yeah, I said another king cake. The Haldanes are already two king cakes in for this carnival season. But I will be grabbing myself some dinner while I'm over there at Matherns. And if you don't have your lunch plans yet, they've got a fantastic lunch counter. And while you're there, grab a king cake, bring it back to the office with you. Oh, the office hero every single time. Downtown in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. I'm sorry, downtown on 3rd Street, on campus in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. It is right across the street from Tiger Stadium. And oh, by the way, they are a full-service grocery store, so you can knock out all your shopping and grab a king cake. Or two at Matherns Market. Time for top stories and trending. Let's go. There is no mask mandate plan for East Baton Rouge Parish as of now, hours after New Orleans announced it was reinstating its indoor mask requirement. More on that in the outside in. Hours after that happened, EBR officials say there's no plan to do the same here. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broom's office released a statement yesterday saying the city parish does not intend to bring back its parish-wide mask mandate despite surging cases across Louisiana. However, a city spokesperson clarified face coverings are still required inside city parish buildings. Two men, one of whom supposedly left his shoes at a crime scene, were arrested for the burglary of cars at an apartment complex and hotel parking lot early Tuesday morning. East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office said around 4 a.m. Tuesday, a person was getting dressed for work. They noticed a car alarm from the parking lot of the Cypress Lakes apartment. The victim told deputies he looked out his window, saw his SUV being burglarized by two men, so he got his gun and he went outside. The victim discovered the rear driver's side window of the SUV was busted. One of the men was sitting as, hey, Jake, this person keeps calling me back. Can you see this? This might be our next guest. So the victim told deputies he looked out his window, saw his SUV being burglarized. The victim discovered the rear driver's window of the SUV was busted. One of the men was sitting in his car. He chased the guys off. They were later on caught. The burglary victim was then identified the burglary victim identified the two men in a subsequent lineup. Now, follow that up with two other arrests. Deputies arrested two men in connection with at least 15 vehicle burglaries across the parish Tuesday. EBR Sheriff's Office said a deputy was working on Commerce Circle near the Enclave Apartments on January 10th around 8 a.m. Well, they said three suspects were caught on a doorbell camera pulling on car door handles. Surveillance video showed the suspects leaving in a black Hyundai. They caught up with them and made arrests of two of them as well. Sick out plan for today. EBR schools are scheduled to still be in. It's, 7-11, so you're probably already on your way, if not in school by now. A group of teachers in East Baton Rouge Parish plans to skip classes today in protest of the current COVID protocols at parish public schools. The East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators held a news conference yesterday afternoon, sent a list of demands and potential solutions to EBR Superintendent Cito Narcisse. Narcisse told our news partners at WBRZ it's unclear exactly how many teachers are going to be out today. It's potentially upwards of 350 total if everyone takes part in the sick out. Meetings are underway with key stakeholders tied to a problem that the WBRZ investigative unit has been highlighting for over a year now. It involves offenders who are out on bond who get arrested again and issued additional bonds. Typically, we talked about this with Franz in our last segment. Typically, part of bond conditions include a requirement that the defendant remains crime-free. In multiple cases exposed by WBRZ's investigative unit, they showed where some offenders were out on bond 3 different times. Police Chief Murphy Paul, I love the way this reads, spoke with our news partner, Brian Haldane. Yeah, Chief Paul was here yesterday. It's available on demand at talk1073.com if you want to hear it. He talked about it. He says, with more information at the judge's fingertips, suspects' bad histories will be factored into any additional bonds that are set. The chief said there are ongoing meetings talking about how everybody, all the players involved, can get better within this situation. Baton Rouge Fire Department started the morning off working a fire on Plank Road at Jackson Avenue. Once again, our news partners at WBRZ, they were on the scene for this one at Brother Moe's and Ann's grocery store, located at 2004 Plank Road around 4 a.m. Unclear as to what ignited the flame. Officials say no one was injured in the fire, but, it was a roaring blaze to start off the morning. Those are your top stories. Here is a look at what's trending. Kevin Falk's a Hall of Famer, y'all. Well, not officially official yet, but it's on its way. Louisiana legend at LSU running back Kevin Falk will be inducted into the 2022 College Football Hall of Fame later this year. Falk is credited, of course, with being part of that Bring Back the Magic wave in the early to mid-'90s. Quote, all praise goes to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Falk said. This is an honor that wouldn't be possible without my great teammates, coaches, and everyone who helped me along the way. It's a tremendous honor, but for me, it was a team effort. I'm so humbled and honored to be included among the great list of players and coaches in the Hall of Fame class for 2022. Look, we were in it, right? We knew what it was like when Kevin Falk was here, and we know how absolutely amazing he was. But to see it recognized on a national scale is a completely different level. We saw the return to LSU football glory in the 90s as it was making its way upwards. But we got to remember when we went to an Independence Bowl, a Peach Bowl, and an Independence Bowl under DiNardo, like that felt good, right? But at the same time, on a national scale, who's making note of that? Just because you're in the top 25 doesn't mean you're in the top 10. Anyway, 7:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We are late for our break. Congressman Troy Carter's up next. All right.
Thinking about a new career but don't know where to begin? Medical Training College offers day and night massage therapy classes where you can train for a brand new, rewarding career in about a year. Visit mtcbr.com for more information to schedule a tour and find out about financing and options. So we'd love to hear from you today. Medical Training College.
All right.
Assistant, does DEMCO really send students to Washington, D.C.? Here's what I found on that. High school juniors can enter the 2022 DEMCO Essay Contest, and winners will receive an all-expenses-paid trip of a lifetime to Washington, D.C. Hope I'm not too late. When's the deadline? Entries are due by January 21st. So, how can I get more information? For rules and info, visit demco.org. DEMCO, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative. Welcome back to the quickest podcast ever, brought to you by Gold. Today's topic, exercise. You know, the right gear makes all the difference. Sure does. Which is why I went to Kohl's and got an Adidas hoodie for my husband and some Under Armour gear for myself. Is shopping your cardio? More like my motivation. I also picked up some Nike sneakers for my son. Oh, family workouts. That's the goal. Select styles. Coupons do not apply. Some exclusions apply. See store or post.com for details.
Your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Rouge.
In Jackson apparently could be causing some smoke to be close to I-110. I checked out the cams. I'm not really seeing that. But if you do, don't be too alarmed. It shouldn't be reaching the interstate. Let's take you outside and check on our cams. Right now, looking good on the west side. I haven't seen any major backups on the bridge as well.
See an accident reported at WBRZ traffic on Twitter. This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Seven seventeen, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Time for a little D.C. current action. Time to check in with 2nd District Congressman Troy Carter. Congressman Carter, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year to you, Brian. I hope
Happy
you
New
and
Year.
your family are well.
Oh, no, we're doing very, very well to start off the new year, and I hope you are doing the same. You're back in D.C. now, right?
I am indeed, yeah.
What's the schedule like right now? How's your day stacking up? What are you looking at?
Well, we're going to be going in on the floor. Of course, I've got meetings, and I've got a committee meeting this morning. Then we go on the floor this afternoon for votes. But we've got committee meetings starting this morning. Small Business Administration has its committee meeting, and then, of course, throughout the day we've got briefings and prep meetings.
Any of the bills in particular have a little more attention than others? What's got your eye?
Well, the thing that's most important to us right now is what's happening in the Senate. Most of our bills the things that will be coming up today will be suspensions. The bigger issue is going to be watching what happens in the Senate as it relates to the filibuster and talking about how we advance voting rights. The significance of that is incredible, and the whole world's watching.
No, it absolutely is. The filibuster is an interesting thing, though, because literally every Democrat who's on the record as wanting to end the filibuster was on the record completely in favor of the filibuster just 2 years ago.
And you can you can go through history and you can find hypocrisy on both sides.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I think it's interesting.
As it relates to any of these issues, on
Yeah.
any given day, you find a Republican who said that complete opposite when they were in charge versus Democrats who say the complete opposite when they're in charge. And you know what? The American people, and this American particularly, is particularly fed up with the hypocrisy on both sides. The reality is one person, one vote. That should be the rule of the day. If we have carve-outs for some, if we have a simple majority for others, it's time to advance the business of the people and stop the shenanigans that unfortunately, very honestly, are played on both sides of the coin.
So how do we do that when it's the party who has the ability to put down their sword at the time that they're using their sword puts down their sword, as opposed to the party who is on the sharp end of the sword complaining about the sword being used?
I think the people are the one that's going to be the arbiter. The people will determine when they start electing people who go to the Congress to try to find middle ground, to try and find solutions.
Mm-hmm.
When we get more people who are elected recognizing that people should become before party, then you start to see that kind of change. As long as we the electorate, champion the divide instead of championing the ability to come together, we'll continue to have the kind of stalemate that, unfortunately, we're stuck with today. The filibuster has some 160 carve-outs, 160 different carve-outs. The most significant is what we do with our budget, or what we do with reconciliation, as it's been referred to, or what you see we do with judicial appointments. Something as important as the voting rights, something as sacred as the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't ever play with those things. That's the bedrock of our democracy. Suffrage, women having the right to vote. Could you imagine ever going back and not allowing women to vote anymore? Or could you imagine going back and have African Americans no longer be able to vote again? We should be encouraging people to vote. We also obviously want to make sure that we have a society that's free from fraud and corruption, but blocking people from voting and making it more difficult for a person to vote, or challenging the right to vote, is certainly not the way to get there.
Congressman Troy Carter is our guest. Yeah, it just it feels like though every time, and your argument is 100% solid, right? But every time it comes up, the counter argument is, yeah, but this time it means more, or yeah, but this time it's different, or yeah, but Trump's nominees are really bad people, or yeah, just every time you turn around, the people who hold the power, or the people who hold the power to use the filibuster, they just. What's the likelihood that we see it happen, Congressman?
I'm a half glass full kind of guy. So, I wake up every day thinking today is the day we're going to finally make sense of things.
Yeah.
So, you got to measure my optimism, because I believe that if you continue to put pressure on a wall of oppression, it will come down. And if you continue to put pressure on the wall of wrong, it eventually becomes right. So I think in this regard, ultimately we're going to have a prevail, because I think the American people want it, not the people on the far left or the people on the extreme far right. It's the people that live more to the center, leaning right on one day or leaning left on another, recognizing that all issues have some room for compromise. And in the area of making sure that every American has the right to vote, the Voting Rights Act passed in 1965,
mm-hmm.
and here we are in 2022 still talking about it.
I got to ask, what's being hindered here when it comes? Who's not being allowed to vote?
Well, when you talk about, you look at, for example, there are numerous bills that have been passed. We can talk about Florida and we can talk about Texas, but if you look across the country, there have been hundreds of bills that have been aimed at voter suppression in state legislatures.
Suppressed
Federal
how?
government has to, pardon?
Suppressed how?
Voter suppression bills. Bills that, for example, well, I'll give you an example.
Yes.
For example, disallowing people to give water to someone standing in line in the sweltering sun to go and vote, or requiring or limiting the amount of time a person can vote, shortening the days of early voting, or challenging the hours. Why should we do things that retard one's ability to vote? We should encourage, because a strong democracy is built on participation from its people. We've seen what happens with despots, where people are denied the right to speak or denied the right to vote. or denied the right to shout out when things are wrong. America is great because America allows people to say what they believe and to fight for those values and those rights that our country was built on. America is not great because we smolder free speech, because we disallow people to enhance and celebrate their differences. We're strong because we are different. We're strong because we recognize diversity as our strength. We're strong and we're superpower because we're free.
Each one of those, when you put everything together as one blanket list, it does sound bad. But isn't each one of those topics, isn't there a counter to each one of those? Like, for example, if I'm allowed to just plant myself in a voting booth all day long and not get out, isn't that suppressing the vote of the person who's waiting in line behind me?
Well, I don't know when you say plant yourself in a voting booth.
If there's no time limit on how long you're allowed to stay in the voting booth, isn't that disenfranchising?
That's not one that I suggested as voter suppression.
Oh no, you said putting a time limit on the allowed of.
No. When I mean time limit, I don't mean the time limit of a person standing in a booth, but the amount of hours that's available for that person to vote. Or in the case of early voting, how many days you have to early vote. Or in the case of absentee voting, who's entitled to absentee vote. A person that's in the military who's overseas should have the right to continue to vote. A person that is in school but they live in New Orleans but they're in school in Washington should have the right to absentee vote. Those are the kind of things I mean when I say additional time, not time physically in the booth.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. It's an important clarification. The water in line is an interesting one because it opens up a Pandora's box to other potential things. When looked at through the lens of, yes, you have people standing in the sweltering sun in November. I don't know where you have sweltering sun in November, but you have people.
We don't vote in Louisiana. We don't vote in November. We vote all the time. I mean, we vote in the summer. We just had an election, I mean, so there are votes that are not just in November. I mean, we have elections almost seems like every time you turn around in Louisiana. And we do, in fact, have votes when it's hot or when it's cold or when the weather is inclement. I'm
a follow up on that one. I don't.
Very basic nature of you're out, and I just want to give you a bottle of water. If someone wants to have someone give a bottle of water, we're not pass out. You can't pass out paraphernalia. That bottle of water can't have your campaign logo on it. I can give you a piece of candy, but I can't give you a bottle of water.
Right. Well, wait. You can give a piece of candy because I don't think that's allowed either.
I could walk up and say hi to you. You just it specifically says you can't give a person a bottle of water. That's the ridiculousness of some of these laws. Now, many of these that I mentioned have not passed. Mm-hmm. They've been introduced. Many have been either vetoed or they were not passed, but they were introduced. And there are even ones as we speak that are being introduced in upcoming state legislatures across the country. But here's one that's particularly important for the federal government to have the ability to have pre-clearance. That means if a state passes something that is deemed to be unconstitutional or improper, there is an appeal. The federal government has the ability through the Department of Justice to review it. We no longer have that right. This is one of the things that will be restored with the Voting Rights Act, the ability to have pre-clearance. So gerrymandering that a legislature that may be strong of one party and weak of another has no oversight. I mean, checks and balances are very much a part of our democracy.
I love this conversation because I know you and I are nowhere close on the same opinion. But I get 2 minutes left, and I gotta let you sound off.
Talking to you, bro.
No, same here, Troy. It's so good. It really is. Congressman Troy Carter is our guest for another couple minutes. I gotta open up the floor to give you 120 seconds on the January 6th commission and where we're at.
Well, listen, my position has always been I am a lover of democracy. I love this country, and my heart weeps at anyone who tramples on our Constitution, be it tramples on the very body, the people's house. So the very notion that someone would come and defile the very building where our laws are made, where so much history has been a part of the fabric of America, and disregard the rule of law. Listen, Democrats and Republicans should be outraged about what happened on January 6th. This is not a Democrat or a Republican pain. This is an American pain. And Democrats and Republicans should equally feel that our country was under siege and our democracy was challenged, but thank God democracy prevailed. The insurrectionists, I don't call them Republican or Democrat. I call them un-American, because the people who are out there, in my mind, don't deserve to be a part of any political party because you attacked my country. You attacked Republicans and you attacked Democrats. And that's how we have to look at it. We should stand for the rule of the law for America, which protects Americans. And that didn't say black Americans or white Americans or Asian Americans or Democratic Americans or Republican Americans. Hey, man, at our very basic core, we're Americans. And what happened on January 6th was un-American.
Those that went to Washington, D.C. to vote their concerns about the legitimacy of the election is one thing. Those that crossed the threshold when the election was being certified literally and figuratively crossed that threshold. He is Congressman Troy Carter. We always appreciate the time, sir. We will talk to you next week.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Have a great week.
You do the exact same. By the way, 2021 elections in Louisiana, March with a runoff in April, November with a runoff in December. Here's CBS News. The thought that we have elections all year round is one he's going to have to update. He's going to have to dismiss that talking point. He's got to get rid of that talking point. It no longer applies. Let's see. My bad on, I've been completely dialed out YouTube. Let me hop up in here. Regarding the filibuster, the GOP media soundbite should be reciprocity. If the Dems eliminated, even if for a single vote, then the GOP must eliminate it too. Otherwise, the game is rigged. Yeah, it's an I'll put down my sword right after you put down yours. And ain't nobody going to be the first one to put it down. I appreciate where the congressman's at. If it were all in or all out, I'm fine. But it can't be, oh, well, it's got to be all out today because y'all are the ones using it. It's shit. He is much improvement than the last guy. Yeah, he is. There is no voter suppression. Water, long lines are a local problem and should be fixed locally. You know, so I was thinking this while he was talking about it as well, Galen. It's a damn good point, Galen. There is no world in which you should have a national vote on what happens at an individual precinct. We are not America. We are the United States of America. We do not have federal elections. Therefore, we should not be voting on elections federally. I couldn't bring up water, but you bring candy. No, you can't. That's campaigning. And by the way, have you seen voter turnout? Aside from the presidential race, you're not waiting in line outside. What else is going on here? Let's eliminate all gerrymandering, including the use of carving out minority districts. Bing bong. You mean like a district that starts in New Orleans and makes its way all the way up to Baton Rouge so that Congressman Carter's on with me every week? Yeah. Oh, man. It's the crazy thing is, what I love about that segment, and normally it's Tuesdays at 8:35 if you're not used to watching the show. What I love about that segment, he could be wrong all day long, but he will engage the conversation. I'm not taking cheap shots. He's not taking cheap shots. It's a matter of being willing to talk. And from my perspective, as a member of the media and a lifelong Republican, I run into far too often people from my party get pissed at me because I have conversations instead of just spouting off and crapping on people. Make the investigation fair and the committee is loaded. Eric, if you're talking about the January 6th commission, Republicans had every opportunity to be a part of the investigation, and we chose not to. And we chose not to just so we could cry foul after the fact. Go back to right after January 6th when Republican after Republican after Republican voted down or voted against the idea of a bipartisan commission. And Senator Cassidy, who everybody hates now, everybody on the right hates now, which I still don't understand why. He's got a more conservative voting record than John Kennedy. Senator Cassidy said out loud, said on this show, said on the Senate floor, they're going to have an investigation anyway. Do you want to be in the game or not? Oh, you know it's going to be loaded. You don't. And if it's loaded when you're in there, call it out then. But don't say, no, we're not going to have a bipartisan investigation, and then come back less than a year later saying, why is there no bipartisan investigation? What are you doing? Oh, all right. Candidates cannot campaign a certain amount of feet to voting. Common sense. If Trump and then you stop. Was standing in line shaking hands, he would lose it. No, exactly. Exactly. I don't think you can hand out paraphernalia. I don't think you can hand out water. I know you can't hand out water, obviously. I don't think you can hand out candy. That doesn't sound right to me. That's why we give away stickers, right? Thank you for voting. You're just nigger. Or Barbara Norton in Shreveport. Yes. $7:37. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along, hoping for a second dose of D.C. Current right here, looking to connect with Congressman Garret Graves as soon as we can get him on the hotline. And meanwhile, I'm more than happy to unpack a few of the comments on YouTube as a result of what Congressman Carter had to say. Let me start by recapping one of the things he was talking about when it came to voter suppression. And this is a line that people are just going to have to drop. You're just going to have to get rid of. Oh, you got elections all year round in Louisiana. We're voting every third week in Louisiana. This is something that used to be true. But over the course of the last decade, the Secretary of State's office, last 2 decades, the Secretary of State's office has gone to a great lengths to clean up. We have far fewer elections now than we ever have before. Yes, you used to have 5, 6 election dates throughout the year, all with runoffs potentially, meaning you can be going to the polls once a month. 2021, Louisiana, March 20th, primary election. General election and or runoff April 4th, 2021. Fall primary and constitutional amendments November 13th. Fall general election December 11th. Now, I haven't gone back historically to see if we were reaching 100-degree temperatures on April 24th and November 13th. I doubt it. I can tell you this, though. Turnout is not as such that's going to have people in long, you-know-what lines all day long. So I would push back on the congressman a little bit on that. But let's go right back to Washington, D.C. Congressman Garret Graves joins us now. Congressman Graves, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing all right. Just got off the phone with Congressman Carter. We were talking about all the evils of voter suppression and handing out water in the scorching March 20th heat.
Hey, look, I'll tell you, you've seen in the last few years, Brian, how much of a blood sport elections have become.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're seeing is efforts to try to tilt the scales in the direction of, in this case, what Speaker Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and President Biden are pushing. I mean, Brian, think about this for a minute. They are trying to prohibit states from simply having voter ID laws. I mean, look, you and I have talked about in the past all of the instances where you have to show an ID card. You have to show an ID card to get on an airplane. You have to show an ID card to get a vaccine shot, to go to the doctor, to go to a casino, to buy tobacco, to buy alcohol, to buy sinus medicine. To buy sinus medicine, you have to show an ID and register that purchase. I mean, it is absolutely, it doesn't even pass the laugh test to have folks say that that requiring an identification card is voter suppression. Are we also suppressing people from getting health care, from getting alcohol, from getting tobacco, from going on airplanes? No. You've never heard that allegation. And for people to come out there and make that statement is so disingenuous. It's incredible. And something else, Brian, that the bill they're pushing does is it takes taxpayer funds and it contributes it to political campaigns. I mean, think about that. So you're taking taxpayer dollars and you're giving it to political campaigns for them to go out there and go run negative TV ads, for them to go out there and go buy meals or whatever else. That is absolutely inappropriate in this case. And among all of the problems with this bill, those are a couple of them that just make no sense and don't even pass the laugh test, much less any type of legitimate problem that they're trying to solve.
Okay, I 100% agree with you, but let me, just for the sake of argument, push
Sure.
back in the sense that everything you listed off is not guaranteed to us in the Constitution, but our right to vote is. Is it? I mean, like everything you listed off is a privilege versus a right. Sure.
And so if you've got so think about it like this though. It is a right, but your right is being infringed upon if you're going to have fraudulent voting. So let me explain.
Thank you. Okay.
If somebody is coming in and they're saying their name is John Doe or John Smith or whatever else, and that's not really who they are causing your vote to be undermined or maybe be canceled out. And so you've got to protect that right by ensuring the integrity of the process. And that's what voter ID laws do. Now, look, Brian, if there's some impediment or hurdle that is insurmountable to get an ID card, then let's talk about that. Absolutely. But I've never heard anybody other than just the headache that DMV is in general. I've never heard anybody say that they can't get an ID card. Never heard anybody say it. And look, we deal with thousands and thousands of people that call our office asking for help with different government agencies. Never have I had somebody call and say, I can't get an ID card from the state of Louisiana. And so they're inventing problems. And in fact, what they're doing is they're trying to prevent the integrity of the election process. And something else, and I'm going to keep banging this drum, something else, if you want to talk about the integrity of the election process, I offered an amendment that said that no American's vote could be undermined, discounted, or overweighted as a result of having foreigners or illegal aliens in the United States. Yet that's exactly what they're allowing to happen. They did a bill on preventing foreign interference in elections. If right now the process for handing out votes includes counting every foreigner or illegal alien in the United States and then divvying out votes based upon those people, so the state of California right now gets 7 extra electoral votes, or around 7 extra electoral votes for President of the United States, whenever the state of Louisiana only has 8 total. You want to talk about fraudulent elections, disenfranchising voters, and protecting the sanctity of that right? Then you've got to fix that flawed process.
Absolutely. And if there's no way to prove that I am who the paper says I am who I say I am when I walk through the front door, there's no reason to register in the first place. And if there's no reason to register in the first place, then why don't we just move all of our voting, over the phone and just press 1 for X candidate? And call as many times as you like. I mean, we'll have all the election integrity of American Idol.
Yeah. Look, this is a really important issue. We have to get it right. And look, if Democrats win, Democrats win. If Republicans win, and if no party wins, no party wins. But it's got to be the will of the voters. There's no one else that should have a say-so. It's the will of the voters, and you've got to protect that right and not allow for these fraudulent practices to infiltrate here.
Which brings us around to the filibuster, grabbing so many headlines right now. I talked about this with Congressman Carter as well. It always seems to me that the hypocrisy is called out. Everybody who is not currently using the filibuster wants the filibuster gone. I know this is on the Senate side. You're not dealing with this right now when it comes to your day-to-day. But are we ever going to see a day where the side who's on the sharp end of the sword decides, or the side that's not on the sharp end of the sword decides to put their own sword down first?
It's a good point. The hypocrisy up here, depending if you're in the majority or minority, is really unbelievable. And the number of times that I've simply gone and read quotes when we've been in debates and said, well, it's really interesting because just a year ago when you were in the minority, you said, and it really is amazing. And you've heard statements by Chuck Schumer, statements by President Biden and others, all protecting the filibuster and saying how the Senate needs to have a little bit more consensus in decisions because of the whims of the House. And I think that you are making a mistake by coming in and changing the filibuster for entirely partisan legislation that provides voting advantages for one political party. In this case, the Democrat Party. I think it's a dangerous direction to go. And look, I am one of the people that has been victimized by the filibuster, and that when we've tried to pass legislation that has moved through the House trying to address problems for folks in South Louisiana, our bills have been some of the 800 bills I remember a couple of Congresses ago, 800 bills that had passed the House that were just sitting in the Senate. And so, look, I've been frustrated by it. We've been trying to fix problems for South Louisiana that the filibuster has blocked in some cases, but I do think you could make improvements to the efficiency of the Senate without question. But I also believe that having some type of more consensus direction before something becomes a law, it makes sense. Otherwise, we're going to have this whiplash in the United States of America, and that every time you have, every 2 years you have an election, you have a different political party coming in and grabbing the reins. You're going to have things swinging from left to right. One of the reasons the United States has been a very powerful country, has provided so much opportunity to Americans, is because of the certainty and the predictability of this country, this stability. And I am concerned that if you come in and just fully remove any type of consensus in the Senate, then you're going to cause more of that whiplash and get rid of the stability or predictability that so many desire in this country.
Got about 2 minutes left with Congressman Garret Graves. This is D.C. Current. Congressman, got to ask, we talked a lot about the everything else. What's your office up to?
Well, we are working on the voting issues and have been weighing in on some of the actions related to the Senate right now. But right now we have the head of the Corps of Engineers coming before our committee this morning, so we're going to be talking to them about some of our frustrations with delays on the Comeat project, some of the issues and how the West Shore project, these are both hurricane and flood protection projects in South Louisiana. Been working on everything from celebrating the Denham Springs Elementary School and the Central Private School opening, both of which we changed the law to allow them to get the resources they needed to reopen, providing millions and millions of dollars for both of those schools, as well as tens of millions for others to allow them to reopen after the 2016 floods. We were recently working with Nicholls State University, helping out with some FEMA reimbursements, got them an extra $500,000 related to some changes they made for COVID, freed up about $1.1 million in resources for Nicholls, and provided flexibility for all of the universities in Louisiana to be able to draw down some additional funds, working on some energy policy issues. We were meeting with some liquefied natural gas companies, just talking about some of the things that Russia's doing, how we can both kind of bookend Vladimir Putin and help to create more jobs and a healthy economy in Louisiana. So got good bit on the plate, but some important things going on this week.
He is Congressman Garret Graves. Joins us every week at this time. We always appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, Brian. Have a good week.
You do the exact same. That was fun, going back to back like that, kind of a point counterpoint. I'll tell you what, we got one more congressperson that is in our listening area a little bit. Congresswoman Julia Letlow is set to join us tomorrow morning. We'll talk to her then. Right now, here's your Money Now.
I'm Jennifer Kashiko with your Money Now. With the market for selling used cars online exploding during the pandemic, GM wants to help its dealers secure a bigger piece. The Detroit automaker launching a new website called CarBravo that will help GM dealers market and sell used cars online. California Democrats have taken their first step toward abolishing the private health insurance market in the nation's most populous state and replacing it with a government-run plan that they promised would never do. But the proposal that cleared a legislative committee in the state assembly is still a long way from becoming law. It faces strong opposition from powerful business interests who say it would cost too much. And even if it does become law, voters would have to approve a massive.
So Dave Ramsey's going to be on the Comrex.
It might not happen until 2024. A judge has granted the Federal Trade Commission.
Dave Ramsey's going to be on the Comrex. So I'm going to need to be an offline. Okay.
That's right, Joe. Heather's moment has arrived, and you just hope all that training pays off. Heather lays down her purchase, but Randy rings it up as slowly as he can. He is a wily veteran. It gives Heather's eyes the chance to wander. Yep, she's looking at the cigarettes. There's nothing good back there. Quit now, and in 5 years, your odds of getting certain cancers drop 50%. Meanwhile, Randy's stone-faced. He's giving nothing away. He just stands there, wetting his cashier's finger on that sponge. Heather toes the rubber. Here we go. Heather's on.
All right. Let me hop back in on YouTube. Where we at?
She is out of there. Even Randy tips his cap to Heather. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally wants you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takethehealthystand.org.
Hello, everybody. This is Chris Blair, and this is your LSU update brought to you by LSUshop.net. After moving up to number 12 in this week's AP Top 25.
Galen, I don't remember that plan. It says Brian, the Dems eliminated the original GOP committee nominees. That's when the GOP refused participation. There's a separate vote here that I'm talking about.
On the season, 0-2 in SEC action, while the Tigers come in 14-1 overall and 2-1 in SEC play. You can watch the game on ESPN.
Electioneering is prohibited within 200 feet of the polls, I think. That sounds right. It might be 250. Regardless, you get the point.
With tip-off at 6 o'clock. Get ready for LSU men's basketball with a visit to LSUshop.net.
Even with a fair committee, it would be like the fake Russian commission. Okay, but if you actively vote to not participate and then you go piss and moan in the corner, I have trouble listening to the pissing and moaning in the corner. It's the kid who sits on the end of the bench who has every opportunity to get better in the offseason and chooses not to, so the next year he's not in the game either. Sorry, everything's a sports analogy. Why participate in anything that the Democrat Congress has to do with when, see, because you could go piss and moan in the corner. And rather than have a stake in the game, you can have your self-righteousness. Like, I'm sorry, dude. To me, if I'm going to make every effort I can to be on board, to be playing, and then when I see things go wrong within the game I'm playing, I'm going to call them out. Rather than actively saying, I'm going to take my ball and go home. I don't roll like that. Pelosi rejected 2 of the 5 Republican members originally selected. I'm going to have to go back and dig all this up. You're talking about like 100 years ago at this point. Voter fraud is the issue. Yeah, it is. The problem with the voter fraud being the issue, though, is it's very rarely actually recorded. Of course, it's actually recorded about as often as voter suppression now, isn't it? Hello! What happened to the 2/3 vote? Also a good question. Well, no, that's why they talk about you got to have a supermajority to get anything done. which should be all the reason for us to go out and vote this November. Graves makes me feel lazy. My plan this afternoon is to make soup. Well, you can make that soup and make the best damn soup possible. The cut the folks the GOP put up.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4
Yeah, Eric, let me go back and look it up. You're talking about a year ago, dude. That's. $7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Thanks again to Congressman Garret Graves for hopping on board for DC Current. Wow. I know this is going to sound like nerdy or whatever. I don't care. That was fun to me. To go from Congressman Carter, who's on one side of the aisle, to Congressman Graves, who is very much on the other side of the aisle. I mean, both making legitimate points, both obviously... It's going to be impossible not to sound biased because I am a member of the same party as Congressman Graves, so I'm going to agree with him more. But it just, to hear the two different perspectives coming from two different congressional posts, to me, just it kind of spells out. And the fact that we can have conversation, to me, makes all the difference. Going and crying in the corner and shouting from a blog just doesn't get it done for me. That was a heck of a lot more fun than I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to spit on you when I see you. I don't get down that way. Anyway, hey, Dave Ramsey coming up 20 minutes from right now. 8:15 this morning, Dave Ramsey is coming your way, which means we're going to keep it tight in this day in history to make sure we got enough room for Dave on the back end. But I'm looking forward to this. Baby Step Millionaires is his new book. I can't wait to dive in. Also going to talk a little bit about the Ramsey show and where it's headed, and get caught up on how the Baby Step program has made its way through COVID. I mean, it has been a time where a lot of people's budgets have been strained. What does it take are you going to get off the reservation there and leave the game plan behind just to adapt and survive? Or do you double down on your efforts? It's going to be a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to it, 8:15. Right now, the time for the outside in. Let's roll. Starting off in West Baton Rouge Parish, where the sheriff's office says it anticipates taking the case of a woman found dead last year to a grand jury amid the bright spotlight of a popular true crime podcast. Yeah, we're talking about Woody Overton. The former detective questioned the death investigation of Mary, it's either Porsche or Pusho, depending on where you're from. I believe it's Pusho here. She was found dead in Irwinville in March of 2021. Found dead in what Overton described as a bloody murder, a case he felt he needed to discuss on his podcast. Quote, "This is a murder that I cannot turn my back on," he said in the most recent installment of True Life, True Crime. Going to have to get Woody back on the show. He's been a regular on here. He's been on here a few times. His podcast, if you've never heard it before, I'm sorry, it's a Real Life, Real Crime. If you've never heard it before, it's phenomenal. Heading down to New Orleans every year. For carnival time, we get a new mask. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell opting to put her city back on the mask mandate as of 6 o'clock this morning. All indoor buildings, or all, if you're indoors in New Orleans, you got to wear a mask as of 6 o'clock this morning. In Ascension Parish, Matthew Meir was back in court yesterday. He is accused, of course, of killing a master state trooper and a mother of three and shooting several others in 3 parishes. According to BR Proud, Judge Catherine Tess Stromberg reviewed 25 motions yesterday. Common practice, according to their district attorney, Ricky Babin. There will be another motion hearing next month, which will be the next step in a very long and detailed case. Hey, yesterday was the first day physically back to school in St. Helena Parish. They had taken an extra week off from Christmas break due to COVID concerns, but they're back at it now. And that's the Outside In, presented by Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. Check them out online at brptlake.com, brptlake.com. Quick break for CBS News, coming back next. Let me go grab those Dave Ramsey books. I'll be right back. This is already on the Convex. So, side B is the Convex. So I'm going to need to be an offline. I'm not sure if he needs to be an offline as well. I think he just needs to be on. In fact, I'm pretty sure if he's on offline, he's going to roll back to himself. We don't want that. We just need everything he needs to hear needs to be an offline. Everything I need to hear needs to be in whatever program that we're on. So.
So you just, I can keep you offline. It doesn't matter. Like this next segment.
Yeah, you can leave me an offline. That's fine. The thing is, like, whether the mic's on or not, I'm going to roll back to him. Whether the mic's on or up or whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm in offline, Comrex will hear me.
Does this all have to change?
That was it. No, it's already changed.
No.
Hold on, you're good. Yeah, he's going to come up here anyway. I just want him here for the beginning, just to make sure, in case we need somebody to bounce over to the other room to dial something up, which I don't think we do. Oh, let me tweet the YouTube link. Gotcha. There he is. Coming up on 806 to Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake producing. I'm fighting with a box in the studio right now. You can see it on YouTube. What's in the box? What's in the box? Dave Ramsey's new book, Baby Steps Millionaires. Baby Steps Millionaires. How ordinary people build extraordinary wealth and how you can too. You know Dave Ramsey. You love Dave Ramsey. You check him out from 1 to 4 every single weekday right here on Talk 107.3 FM. He's going to join me 9 minutes from right now. Talk about the book. We're going to take you back in time in just a minute with this day in history, but I do need to ask you what you're doing for lunch first. Maybe swing by Mooyah. Maybe grab yourself a cheeseburger, a classic cheeseburger, a classic Mooyah double. Yeah, possibly. Maybe a best case scenario. Sure, why not? You pour the queso right on the burger. Maybe you likes it spicy. That would be a double Diablo. They've got a whole wall of dang, is what it's called. It's kind of like a Hall of Fame, but it's a wall of dang. The burger of the month. Sometimes they get retired, put up on the big board. Sometimes they're just there for the month. Either way, Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes has got you covered. And if you don't like anything throughout their fantastic selection of burgers, whether it be a cheddar bacon burger or an A Wonderful, whether you don't like any of those, the mushroom Swiss, you can build your own as well. You're going to get the freshest ingredients. You're going to get certified Angus beef. You're going to get a freshly baked potato bun at either location of Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Siegen, just north of Industrialplex, or Blue Bonnet at Highland. Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Let me give you a little pro tip here. Sweet potato fries. Get some honey to dip them in. Oh, game changer. Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Jake, what happened on this day in history? The box is now in 5 pieces.
Yeah, we could tell.
5 easy pieces.
Doesn't matter if you're on air or on YouTube, you could tell that box has seen
I had
days.
enough. I had enough. I'm done with it.
Well,
I like this. Ramsey, he sends me a paperback copy, but I got 3 copies to give away hardcover.
Sounds like he loves your audience more than you.
Yeah, no. I see where he's at.
Shout out to those tuning in. I'm Jake. Good morning to all those tuning in. 1803 is where we're kicking things off. U.S. Senate approves Thomas Jefferson's nomination of James Monroe and Robert Livingston to negotiate the purchase of New Orleans from France. 9 years later, in 1812, the first cargo arrives in New Orleans by steam from Natchez.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said Louisiana Purchase right there. That's where we let off?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
New Orleans. It was purchase of New Orleans specifically.
Oh, not the whole thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
See, even they knew New Orleans was better than everything.
Wow.
Come on, it's New Orleans.
Easy with that.
Come on.
Easy with that.
1939. Timely Comics, later known as Marvel, founded by American publisher Martin Goodman in New York.
All right.
1966, Batman, starring Adam West as Batman, Burt Ward as Robin, and Cesar Romero as the Joker, debuts on ABC. 1968, Beatles film production, LTD, changes name to Apple Film Production. 1995, the murder trial against O.J. Simpson begins in L.A.
Oh, good. You had that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. 1997, Tiger Woods wins Mercedes championships. 2013, Mile High Miracle happened.
Okay.
You know about that?
The Mile High Miracle?
Yeah.
That would be Broncos and Ravens.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Minute 9 remaining. Quarterback Joe Flacco heaves 70-yard touchdown pass receiver Jacoby Jones to tie the game. The Ravens won in overtime.
Yep.
2014, True Detective, a crime drama starring Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, debuts on HBO. Any other events for me before we get to the birthdays?
No. You had Motown, right?
Motown?
I heard a music one. What did you have? This day in 1959, Berry Gordy borrowed $800 to begin his own record label. Tamla Records, the beginning of the empire that has become known as Motown Records.
Yeah, I didn't have that one.
Okay.
Well, there you
now
have
do.
it. Birthdays, let's get right down to it. Jeff Bezos,
Okay.
58 years old. Howard Stern turns 68. Rob Zombie's 57. Rush Limbaugh was born on this day in 1951. And finally, Dominique Wilkins turns 62.
Yeah, Dominique. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Any more?
Jarvis Green. Former LSU Tiger Jarvis Green, born on this day in 1979. I'm scrolling through the list here. I thought I had one more LSU guy, Henry Thomas. No, that was it.
Well, there you have it. No deaths to report. Let's get to the
No,
holidays.
whoa, Nelly. You missed a death. Whoa, Nelly.
What'd I miss?
This day in 2018, Keith Jackson passed away.
Oh.
Yeah. Legendary sportscaster Keith Jackson.
Right, you are. Let's get to the holidays now. First up, National Take the Stairs Day. Take the stairs today, people.
Take the stairs every day.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
My legs
Come
are
on,
tired.
lazy.
National Hot Tea Day.
I will say this, though. I take the stairs a lot more now that I got the Fitbit. My wife got me a Fitbit for Christmas.
Nice.
Yeah, Fitbit Versa something. But, yeah, it's definitely you become more conscious of.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I'm out taking the stairs or am I riding the elevator?
Well, come on, people. Take the stairs today.
Always.
Be festive. National Hot Tea Day. You know, I prefer tea myself. I'm definitely going to have some hot tea when I get done with this show because I need it. And finally, shout out to all the redheads out there. Kiss a Ginger Day. Yes, that's actually what it's called. I'm not being, mean. That's actually what it's called.
Okay.
But that is this day in history.
All right. 812 Talk 107.3 FM. Got a break coming back. Dave Ramsey joins us next. Can you put that pot in queue and make sure that he's there? The Comrex pot? Yes. He doesn't need to hear commercials or anything, does he? Okay. Did you hear him talking?
Yep, we got you. This is great, Dave. Good morning.
The correct answer was better than I deserve, Cade. Come on.
Yeah, the pop will come on whenever you're ready. But 90 seconds out, guys.
Download the all-new Talk 107.3 mobile app, brought to you by Gregory Ricks and Associates. Listen live. Find out what you missed on demand. And set an alarm to wake up and listen. The Talk 107.3 mobile app is brought to you by Gregory Ricks and Associates.
One now. For him? Yeah. And whenever he's ready to come on, just be on until you're ready.
What? Ed Tech in 2022, AI will continue to rule the classroom. How did I get on this stupid email list? I mean, I'm on a lot of email lists. Just did not see that one coming. How much longer do we have before we come back from break? How long would it take you to pull up the song Baker Street? Oh, Girl Scout cookies. Yes.
On the internet?
No. Never mind Baker Street. I meant right there. 8:15. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Been looking forward to this one. He is a New York Times best-selling author. He is the host of the Dave Ramsey Show. He is right here live from 1 to 4 every afternoon. And right now, Dave Ramsey joins us. Dave, I love asking this question. How you doing?
Better than I deserve, brother. How's things in Baton Rouge?
Oh, doing very well in Baton Rouge. Another cool, crisp morning to start things off. Baby Steps Millionaires is out now. We're going to dive into it in just a minute, but I've got to start with a little bit more about our current climate as far as people working their way through their own finances. The Dave Ramsey path, the baby steps, the whole program, financial leadership and all of it, how has it fared through COVID?
Very well. It kind of validated the whole brand because obviously if you're the third pig, the one that lives in the brick house, and the pandemic wolf comes along and blows down everybody else's house, you feel pretty smug. So having a big pile of money for your emergencies and no debt when a pandemic comes is a much better place than being deeply in debt and having no money.
And for those that were very early on with the baby steps, and you take phone calls every single day, what does it take to get people to stay on the path when times get rough?
You got to believe it's the shortest, fastest way to get control of your life, your money, and ultimately end up wealthy. And if you believe that, then you'll stay with it. But what causes people to give up or get sideways is when they panic, they're greedy, those kinds of things, and we all do that. I mean, but when we're dealing with our feelings rather than our will and our intellect, we seldom make adult decisions. Usually, make children decisions.
Dave Ramsey's our guest. The new book is called Baby Steps Millionaires. I'm holding a copy of it right now. How ordinary people build extraordinary wealth, and how you can too. What made you want to go back to put pen to paper again?
Well, I haven't done a major trade book, in about 8 years. We've been doing Ramsey Personalities books, and Ramsey Press has had a bunch of number ones, but I was seeing two things out there that I thought we needed to address, and I was uniquely the one to address them because I'm the old guy in the bunch, So first thing is I was running into all these people that were for the sake of socialism or wealth equality or political campaign or whatever, they were beating this drum that it's impossible for the average person to become wealthy in America today, that there's all these broken things in America. It's systemic this and systemic that and this problem and that problem. And yeah, we've got problems. There's no question about that. But these people, these hope stealers, I don't like hope stealers. They piss me off. And because I'm in the business of giving people hope, and I knew they were wrong, too. And so then the second thing was I kept running into all of the evidence that shows that you can become a millionaire. The stories of people that have done the baby steps and have become millionaires, we call them baby steps millionaires. We had story after story after story lining up, tens of thousands of them, and we did one of the largest pieces of research ever done on millionaires in North America. A couple of years ago, we completed an airtight piece of research on 10,000 different millionaires, and we started seeing who they were, where they come from, and they were not inheriting their money, and they were not NFL stars, and they were not rock stars or whatever. They were teachers and accountants and engineers, and they were doing it every day. And so I thought, you know what, we need to put out a case here, airtight, to show folks that you absolutely can do this, and I'm going to prove it to you. And that just punches the hope stealers in the nose.
They're called baby steps, but they do take some adulting. The steps aren't difficult to comprehend, but it does take a lot of discipline, does it not?
Yeah, I mean, children do what feels good. Adults devise a plan and follow it. And so, no, there's nothing easy about becoming successful at anything. That's why we admire successful people. People that have wonderful, successful marriages, that's not easy. People that raise good kids in this wicked, weird culture, that's not easy. So we admire them when they do that. People who build wealth, we admire them when they do that. It's hard. But the stuff we teach is easy to understand, but boy, you got to control that guy and gal in your mirror, and that's a full-time job for me.
The baby steps to become a millionaire, are they different than your traditional financial piece? I mean, are we breaking new ground here?
No, it is the exact same baby steps.
Yeah.
The difference is that after 30 years of doing this, I'm now not talking about Oh, get $1,000 in the bank, baby step 1. 2, get out of debt, everything but your house, using the debt snowball, which I spent a lot of my life talking about. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the third baby step, finish your emergency fund. I'm talking about what happens when you get to baby step 4 and you start putting 15% of your income into retirement because you don't have $1,200 or $1,400 worth of non-mortgage payments anymore because you paid off your debt. And you start loading up that 401k and that Roth IRA with a match or without a match, and then you start getting your kids' college in line, and then you start paying off your house. And the average person doing this stuff is paying off their house in 7 to 10 years, and they're becoming millionaires in 12 to 17 years. And so I'm starting to see the other side of this. These last baby steps really happen so much that we had to emphasize, hey, if you follow the plan works.
Absolutely, it does. And I want to follow up on that with, have you ever done a count on the amount of wealth that has been created or retained and created through your system?
No, it would be a bit impossible. I mean, we know the numbers of interactions with customers. On average, our debt-free screams on the air for the last decade or so have been more than 60 million a year. That's just on the air debt-free screams. And so that's over $1 billion. Easy. And so, you know, it's easy to extrapolate how many people never get on the air but did all this stuff. Oh, at least 10x, right?
Yeah.
So at least 10 billion there. And we know 10,000 people, around 8,000 families have been through Financial Peace University. We know we sold 8 million Total Money Makeover books. We know we have 22 million listeners to the radio show. So we know those numbers, but to extrapolate that into the economic impact, it's impossible to know this side of heaven.
Dave Ramsey is our guest. You hear him from 1 to 4 live, 1 to 4 every afternoon here on Talk 107.3 FM. Baby Steps to Millionaires is the name of the book. Dave, I don't want to give away too much from inside the book because we do want folks to read it. I've been able to skim it so far. There's been 2 chapters that I've really dug into, and I'll commit to the full book when I have some free time, obviously. But Chapter 4, a millionaire is not a billionaire. Let's talk about that difference a little bit because to me that's huge.
Yeah, I think it is huge because what happens is if you feel like wealthy is one thing, it feels unattainable, then you're not going to go do it. See, the idea of a millionaire was a big deal. It really first popped up in the 1920s, the Roaring '20s, if you think of the Great Gatsby and the Flappers and so forth, okay? It was a rock and roll era of the economy, and people became millionaires for the first time ever, and it was a big deal. It was a big milestone. But today, a millionaire is confused in the media, and it's confused in people's psyche with a billionaire. Millionaires don't have jet airplanes. Millionaires don't have 7 houses and 18 cars. Millionaires don't drive a $250,000 car. Billionaires do.
Right.
A billion is 1,000 million. And so if you can't ever see yourself with a private jet, 6 houses and 17 cars, you know, in a Lamborghini, if you can't see yourself in that, and for that reason, you never go about the business of funding your 401k and getting your house paid off, which is the 2 primary ways that people hit the first milestone, which is millionaire, $1 to $5 million net worth, then you won't engage in what we're trying to get you to do, and that's lay the foundation for your wealth. And so it is a problem because it's, you know, it's kind of the, the music video idea of what wealth really is.
Skipping ahead to Chapter 6, the quickest right way to $1 million. How important is it to make sure you emphasize the word right way?
You know, it's a problem because Get Rich Quick is going zoom, zoom out there. We're doing a big event Thursday night that, by the way, is free if somebody wants to watch it on live stream. Just go to RamseySolutions.com/wealth, called Wealth Building 2022. And because there's so much get rich happening out there right now with, the Robinhood app and GameStop and Bitcoin and nothing down real estate's come back again. And everybody's trying to look for a shortcut. And the problem is not that I hate all of those things. I don't. But the problem is that they don't have any track record of actually causing people to get wealth and keep it. There's almost 0% that get wealth and keep it using those things. Mm-hmm. But people that pay off their house and get their 401k built, they get wealth and keep it. Like a very high percentage probability of actually accomplishing it.
It's amazing how the light goes off at different times. I mean, just the light bulb goes off at different times for folks to just when you're either auto draft is the devil, by the way, but if you're physically writing a check to pay your bills, when one day you're just like, why am I doing this every month? Why am I paying the minimum every month? Why don't I really focus in and get down to it?
Yeah, something has to wake you up, and sometimes it's a disgust, sometimes it's a crisis, sometimes it's just some new information that lights your brain up, and that's okay. It happens to me too, and so you just have to go, okay, I probably don't need to eat every donut in a 50-mile radius. It's not working out for me.
I mean, some things are negotiable, right?
Well, that's what happened to me during COVID, and I just got fat. I got fat.
Well,
I had to have a wake-up call, and old Dave's lost 37 pounds, man. I was old and fat. It wasn't good.
Nice. Yeah, there's baby steps out of that, too, by the way. Chapter 5 is called Belief versus Barriers, and I wouldn't be shocked if you had, this is your book, but did you sub this one out to your boy Ken Coleman?
No, he and I just agree on a lot of things when we're right.
I mean, like that's one of the ones that I had to dig in on hard when I first got my copy of this one was Belief versus Barriers. I love you to pieces, and I love that you've got Ken Coleman on your team. Which I kind of want to talk about the team, man. The team's growing. It's the Ramsey show from 1 to 4 now. It's not just Dave. As your tribe grows, the influence grows, the perspectives grow, but they all bring it back around. What's in store for Ramsey this year?
Well, we just announced a new Ramsey personality yesterday, Christina Ellis, who is a very bright young woman. She had a best-selling book after she went and got $500,000 worth of scholarships and went to Belmont and Vanderbilt with her master's degree free. And she's in the Borrowed Future documentary. And we brought her on because we think she's got a great voice and a great intellect. She's a thought leader in that space. And so you'll be hearing more from her later. And we just hired a young man that we've not taken out to the public yet in the leadership space, and you'll be knowing about him a little bit later in the year. So it's there's up to 10 of us now that are out here carrying these different messages around in different segments, and whether it's Deloney in the mental health world or Coleman in the career world, and so on. So there's a lot of stuff happening. It's a lot of fun right now.
It is the Dave Ramsey Show the Ramsey Show 1 to 4. Baby Steps Millionaires is available right now. Wait, it is out already, right?
Yes,
because I'm giving away some copies next segment, so it better be out right now. And you catch it from 1 to 4. Just a quick anecdote before I get you out of here, Dave. So along with your show, we also carry LSU women's sports on Talk 107.3 FM. Took my daughters to the LSU women's game last week, and we were listening to the post-game show. And in the post-game show, when they went to break, tossed to a commercial for your show. And my daughter's friend, my daughter's a freshman in high school, my daughter's friend is like, oh, Dave Ramsey, my parents have made me read 3 of his books. She's a freshman in high school, Dave.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
that was
awesome.
well, it was a real slap in the face to me because I'm like, oh, I got to get off the schneid here. I got to get my kids reading too. So.
I get the books free and my kids.
Exactly. Well, look, I'm looking forward to diving into the rest of this one. It is fantastic thus far. He is Dave Ramsey. You know where to find him. Dave, I always appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you guys. Thank you for having me.
The honor's all on this side. We'll talk to you soon. Coming up on 8:30. Well, I've got about a minute and a half till 8:30 here at Talk 107.3 FM when we will meet CBS News. Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps. I tell you what, first copy right now. How about that? Caller number 3 to 499-1073. Not going to make you register for anything. Not going to make you sign up for anything. Not going to make you answer. You know what? No, not going to make you answer a trivia question. Just caller number 3 to 499-1073 gets you a free copy of Baby Steps Millionaires. Oh, I see him lighting up right now. I tell you what, you are caller number 1. You are caller number 2. You are caller number 3. Hey, punch up the phone real quick. Punch up the phone. Let's see where we're at. Hey, you're on the air. You are caller number 3. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing very, very well. I said I wasn't going to make anybody answer a trivia question, so Baby Steps Millionaires is yours either way, but let's try a trivia question just for you-know-whats and giggles. What is baby step number 1?
That's a good question.
Ah!
I've been for about 2 years now. I don't know. I guess I'll take a stab at it. It's baby step number 1. I would guess it's debt snowball.
Debt snowball is actually baby step number 2. Baby step number 1 is get yourself $1,000 at the bank. But I told you didn't have to answer the question correctly in order to win the book. So let's put you back on hold. Jake will take your information. Jake, let me hand you this book right here. That is his. We'll give away a couple more later on in the show. Right now, though, I got to tell you about the folks over at Go Slim Nutrition. Dave was talking about dropping 37 pounds. Hey, you could be on your way to dropping some weight as well. How about Lent before Lent? How about a 45-day program what would you like to give up? Before we hit Lent and give something up for Lent, why don't you get yourself on that path right now? Go Slim Nutrition can help you out. They're on the corner of Bluebonnet and Perkins, or Perkins and Bluebonnet, technically. 763-9600 is the phone number. 763-9600 is the phone number. They've got programs available for you right now to help you lose weight within your lifestyle. This isn't just a diet. It is a lifestyle. Bars, shakes, meals, it's all good to go, but it's not about that as much as it's about the accountability. GEAUX SlimBR.com is the website. 763-9600 is the phone number, or just swing by. I'll be there Friday at 10 a.m. for my weekly weigh-in, my weekly food confession. That's all about the Catholicism this morning, right? Go Slim. Here's CBS. All right. Grab his first and last name and phone number on line 3, please. And then write them down on write them down on a little Post-it note. Stick the Post-it note on the book. I'll let him know he can pick it up from our front desk. You know what? I got it. All right. Sorry about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. I was just having some fun. So dirty little secret. He went through it real quick, but he did mention it during the segment. So, but he flies through that first step or the first few steps. All good. No, all good. What's your first and last name? Josh Howard. And your phone number, Josh. Okay. This is going to be at our front desk. Do you know where we're located? Guarantee Media. We are downtown 929 Government Street. Basically across the street from where WAFB and the funeral home's at. We're right there. Now we've had some COVID issues with our front desk. It's not manned all the time. So when you get here, there's a phone number posted on the front door. If you're here within business hours, call that phone number, and there should be somebody come down to let you in to get you your book, and we'll get you taken care of. And if you run into any problems with it, whatever social media you're on, DM me on social media. I'm very quick to respond. Like from the parking lot, be like, I'm here and there's nobody answering, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. All right? No, appreciate you, man. Thanks for listening. Thanks. You too. Bye. All right. Do you have Post-it notes? I'm going to go look at ESPN real quick. I want to make sure this guy's taken care of. All right. Guess what I found? This is awesome. found 3 copies of the Total Money Makeover and the Prox. I didn't find my Post-it notes I was looking for, but I found 3 copies of the Total Money Makeover and Ken Coleman's Proximity Principle. So now it's a 3-book packet. That's awesome. Shit, that just turned into like $100 worth of books over in moments. I didn't find Post-it notes, but I found more books. So now it's a 3-book packet. Proximity Principle by Ken Coleman, Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, and The Baby Steps Millionaires.
But wait, there's more.
I know! I feel like an infomercial guy.
Call now and we'll double your order.
Totally just doubled it. Byron says Senator Kennedy and Dave Ramsey should have a folksyism square off. Look, Dave, I love Dave. He's so good. Huh? He's based out of Nashville. I don't know where he's originally from. Galen says, haven't heard on-air callers in a while. Yeah, I know. I've got to find a Post-it note. Like, how do we not have Post-it notes? Hey, another copy of the Proximity Principle. What the hell? Oh, found them! Oh, shit, there's 5 more copies of the Proximity.
We might need more callers.
Why? Why do we have all these extra books? All right. Do you have Chris Nakamoto's phone number? .837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Going to be talking with WBRZ's Chris Nakamoto in just a little bit. So there's been an ongoing story, and Nakamoto's been out in front on this one. And I got to take a little bit of part in it yesterday as well as, where'd it go? They're calling it a revolving door of crime, right? Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul was on the show yesterday. He talked about it as well. Is that you get tired of arresting the same guys over and over and over again, right? Well, how do you put a stop to that? How do you see to it that when you arrest somebody, they stay arrested? So the chief addressed it as a problem, and then lo and behold, I'm checking out WBRZ, and, well, they used part of the interview with Chief Murphy Paul from yesterday as part of an ongoing story. Really picked it up and ran with it from there. There's been a couple of different folks who just have been arrested repeatedly. Dadgummit. We're going to talk with Nakamoto in just a little bit. Sorry, I'm lost all my notes here. I threw everything around for Dave Ramsey trying to rip that box open, and we'll get to it. Got to check your weather real quick. As what are we looking at here in Baton Rouge? Well, we got a couple days worth of the same thing over and over again, which is rare for us for this time of year. But we are looking at a high of 60 today, overnight low of 37. High of 69 tomorrow, so it will get a little bit warmer. Overnight low Thursday night into Friday morning of 41. Friday going to top out at 69 with an overnight low of 49. Now, looking ahead to the weekend, this is what we're really paying attention to as it is Louisiana Marathon weekend. Saturday is a high of 67 with a low of 38, but an overnight low, with high of 67, low of 38, but during the day we have an 85% chance of rain throughout the day. Now, that's Saturday during the day. The big marathon isn't until Sunday. Looking ahead to Sunday's forecast, the chance of rain scales back to like 10%. It's going to be cold Sunday morning to be sure. As your overnight low Saturday night and Sunday morning is 38 degrees, which means 7 a.m. on Sunday morning, that's probably where you're going to be, 38, 39 degrees to start the Louisiana Marathon. Going to warm up to about 48 throughout the day. Going to be windy throughout the day as well. That rain on Saturday looks like it's an all-day affair, right? 6 a.m., there's a 40% chance of rain. It goes up from there as the day wears on and then tapers back off. The rain should be over with about 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then that's when it starts to cool down after that a good bit. So your high on Sunday, big day for the marathon. Your high is just 48 degrees. It's going to be a cold marathon, to say the least. All right, looking to connect with Nakomoto here in just a minute. I'll tell you what, we can give out another set of books if you want. Let's do the exact same thing. Caller number 3 to 499-1073. And little bonus action here. So I was looking for a Post-it note to take down our winner's name and number. By the way, shout out to Josh, won our first book. Here's the thing, though. It's not just Baby Steps Millionaires, which is the newest one from Dave Ramsey. But while I was looking for Post-it notes, I found 3 copies of Total Money Makeover and 3 copies of The Proximity Principle. And I know that sounds very infomercially, like I just found 3 in the back. I actually did just find 3 in a cabinet out in the bullpen area outside. So all 3 books combined together for caller number 3. Let's go. You are caller number 1. You are caller number 2. You are caller number 3. Welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you?
Oh, pretty good.
No trivia question, no nothing. Congrats. You just won The Proximity Principle, Baby Steps Millionaires, and Total Money Makeover. What's your first name?
Jeremy.
Jeremy, are you a regular Dave Ramsey listener?
Yes,
Have you done the Total Money Makeover?
I have.
Oh, well, then you're already set. You already know this one, so you get to share it with a friend. In the meanwhile, going to drop you right back on hold. Jake's going to take your full information off air. Jake, if you wouldn't mind, his full name, phone number, and we are good to go. That leaves us with, he's on line 3, by the way. That's going to leave us with one more set of books that, honestly, I think I'm going to hold off on until Friday, because if I found those, maybe I could find some more, package them in with like some Chris Hogan, some Rachel Cruz, and just go on a full-on set for this last giveaway. All right, looking for Chris Nakomoto here, and let me shoot him a text real quick since he's not on yet. I want to talk about that revolving door of crime. Is there something that can be done? Is there something that can actually be done to solve this? We were talking with attorney Franz Borghardt earlier in the show. Legally Served, we do it every Wednesday at 6:35. We were talking with Franz about the same topic, and it's always going to be a different perspective talking to a criminal defense attorney than it is when we're talking to law enforcement. Franz's take is going to be different than Murphy Paul's take. Murphy Paul's take might be slightly different than the district attorney's take, had the DA on last Wednesday. By the way, little promo here. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome tomorrow at 7:15. So Franz's take kind of surprised me. Was asking a criminal defense attorney about changing bonding, how changing the bond issue. If you got multiple people out on multiple bonds committing multiple crimes, what can actually be done? And it turns out there are steps that can be taken. You can look at everything on a case-by-case basis, break it down, and say, you've been out, you're already out on a violent crime, and we're going to put you back on the street a second time, a third time, a fourth time. How many times does that happen before, well, I'll just go to my own life, before you're driving up Government Street and you see a car that just got, for lack of a better term, Sonny Corleoned. For those that don't know The Godfather, when Sonny Corleone goes to his sister's rescue and he got set up by, I believe it was the Tatalias. Carlos set him up. When he pulls up to the toll booth on the causeway, and the dudes just come out of both sides with their Tommy guns or whatever they had at the time and just riddle the car with bullets. That's what the car looked like. A block away from a church. And it was one of 4 shootings on Sunday. And it was 10 o'clock in the morning. The chief has told us repeatedly that it's a very small group of people committing the overwhelming majority of the crimes. He said yesterday, what we saw on Sunday, targeted victims. It's not random violence, which for the large part actually makes me feel a little bit better. It's the random violence, those X factors, that should frighten us more. If I'm not involved in the drug game, then I don't have to worry. If I'm not involved in any gang beef, then I don't have to worry. But when it makes its way out in public, not 11 o'clock at night behind a convenience store, 10 o'clock in the morning on a busy thoroughfare. No thoroughfare is busy at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, but you get what I'm saying. An otherwise populated street. When that starts to happen, targeted violence can have random victims. Random victims can come from stray bullets. And that's where it starts to get scary again. Call them one more time, please. That's where it starts to get scary again. So you get guys that are out on multiple bonds. What can be done about solving the revolving door of crime? The story from our news partners at WBRZ covered this last night. And I want to see where the story goes from here. Pulling it up as we speak. Give me one quick second. There it is. Chris Nakomoto had the story from WBRZ. It said, meetings are underway with key stakeholders tied to a problem that WBRZ's investigative unit has been highlighting for over a year. This involves offenders who are out on bond who get arrested again and issued additional bonds. Is that Chris? We still got about 4 minutes left in the segment, which we will bring on Chris Nakomoto. Chris, welcome back. How are you, man?
Thanks for having me. How are you?
No, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for hopping on board. I appreciate you this morning. So your story last night on the 6 o'clock news about the revolving door of crime. So this is something that has been, we'll say it's not a new story, but it's an advancement of the story. Fair?
Absolutely, and it all follows the interview that you had with Chief Paul on yesterday morning on your radio show, where he talked about the meetings that they're having with all sorts of stakeholders, including judges, to basically talk about what is needed to basically help keep the community safe. So essentially what we've been finding out is once a bond is set, sometimes judges don't have all that information at their fingertips. And so we're seeing defendants who are being given not one, not two, but 3 different bonds sometimes. Mm-hmm. And usually, in all cases, a condition of your bond is you have to remain crime-free. So it raises questions when these defendants are able to get second and third bonds as to whether or not the judges even knew whether or not they were out on a first bond or a second bond, and whether or not, they knew about all of their criminal histories. So these meetings are geared at essentially trying to stop some of that from happening and to make sure that the judges and the people who are setting bonds have all that information at their fingertips when they, see a defendant come through the system.
So right on his face, that's the part that baffles me, is that you can be in court and the judge not know what your history of being in court is. Like if I get pulled over in a traffic stop, that arresting officer is going to know if I have previous warrants. How in this information age is that not just standard operating procedure that when someone's in court, it's like, here's his priors, here's what we're looking at?
So it's really interesting because, obviously if they're arrested in a certain jurisdiction, obviously it should show up in that jurisdiction, but we're seeing time and time again where if somebody's arrested out of state or they had a conviction somewhere else, sometimes the systems don't all necessarily link up to one another. And sometimes when people are arrested and they're issued a misdemeanor summons, it may not necessarily show up on their rap sheet. And so all of this information that could possibly be gathered and somebody may have it may not necessarily be at a judge's fingertips when they wind up setting a bond. So in order for this to basically, alleviate itself, meetings are being held this year. Yesterday, they had a meeting with the juvenile judges to talk about what information they need from law enforcement and all the key stakeholders. And last week, they had meetings with the FBI, the DEA, also with some of the judges on the 19th. And it sounds like everybody has a role to play in this. whether it's the law enforcement aspect of it, whether it's the judges aspect of it, to make sure that everyone's getting the appropriate information so that this doesn't keep happening. Because when you think about it, at the end of the day, this is about community safety. And when people are allegedly committing crimes, issued a bond, issued a second bond, and a third bond, that really is putting the community's safety at risk. We interviewed a victim, I remember a year and a half ago, and she basically said that her whole family was terrified because they didn't understand how the system was allowing this person who continuously committed crime after crime after crime and managed to keep getting out.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's a very valid point that's being raised, and it's actually a good thing that it seems like it's now being addressed.
Yeah, I'm curious as to who that responsibility falls on, because if it falls on the prosecutors, well, they're already overwhelmed and overworked, especially in the wake of COVID. It's not going to fall on the defendant for sure. So this is one of those ones where everybody can kind of Pontius Pilate themselves and wash their hands of it, and yet we're still dealing with on the streets the exact same problem we've had over and over and over again. All these discussions are going to have to trigger something, but that's going to have to involve somebody owning it too.
That's right. We heard on your show that, the DA's office right now has a 200 case backlog.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, that's 200 cases. And, in Hiller's office, if you've got about 50 prosecutors, I mean, even if they dedicate all their time to certain cases, I mean, that takes a lot of time to get them through the system. And with, extra delays as COVID continuously gets bad and there's more delays, it's just going to exacerbate this problem that we've been seeing with even more delays. And so you already had a tax system before COVID. Now with the shutdowns, you're seeing this delay that's happening. And now it seems like it's like, will this ever end?
Yeah.
Will they ever be able to catch up? And it's really unfortunate because at the end of the day, you have victims and family members of victims who are waiting to get justice. And these delays aren't good for them either.
Well, you stay on and I'll continue to brazenly steal your content. So we'll just keep after it. He is WBRZ's investigative reporter, Chris Nakomoto. We always appreciate the time, sir. Thanks for hopping on board.
Thanks for having me. We appreciate the partnership.
Always, sir. Yeah, no, dude, we get so much more out of this than they do. It's ridiculous. What an unbelievable resource WBRZ has been. They've been fantastic. We got a break. We're super late for a break. Coming back, let's talk a little bit about the Louisiana Marathon and how you can help one particular cause within it next. Hello. Come on in. No. Couldn't even hear it. You're Catherine?
I'm Catherine,
Kathy?
Where do you want me?
Right here. Yes.
I have too much stuff. That's why.
Entries are due by January 21st. So, how can I get more information? For rules and info, visit demco.org. Demco, your touchstone.
I'm getting over a very, very timely case of bronchitis. So
Oh, no.
I know. I brought my water in case it starts. I still have a little bit of a cough, and it's messing me up so much for this marathon. But it could be worse. I could be kind of amputated leg like Jason.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Everything now.
Give me one more second. I apologize. I'm texting back my last guest who was just on with me. All right. So we're on YouTube as well. And we're always on YouTube. So. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, coughing in a commercial should not be allowed in the middle of a pandemic. Like, how many people were triggered by that?
Yeah.
I didn't like that in the slightest.
No. I'm still putting off the 9 o'clock interview, too. He should be calling the hotline like at Heads Up 9. William Klaber is the host of the True Crime Podcast, the MLK Tapes. So this is going to go super quick. It's going to be about 4 minutes from start to finish. But we're going to tell Jason's story and then how folks can help.
Great.
So. Sorry, I'm a mess. I'm Brian.
I'm Kathy. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's Jake.
Jake? Hey, Jake. I can tell.
Been following the forecast for the weekend. Y'all going to be cold.
I know, but cold is good when you run.
Yeah?
It's easier to run when it's cold.
So
you feel cold.
I'm not a runner, but I'm trying my best, right?
I just started running when I was 57.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like most people run their whole lives.
Yes.
Just randomly started running.
Okay. What got you started?
I don't even really know. I was walking,
Mhm.
and then I just decided to try to run a little bit.
Okay.
And I could only run 5 mailboxes. That's how far I ran, and I was like, ugh.
So yeah, when I breathe in that cold air, it's just...
I know.
Yeah. 8:56 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. One segment to go on air. More than that, if you're watching us on YouTube, William Klaber is the host of the True Crime Podcast, the MLK Tapes. He is going to join us at Heads Up 9 o'clock to talk about that. But before we get out of here on air, though, let's take a little preview of what's to come for this weekend with the Louisiana Marathon. So, everyone converges on Louisiana for the marathon because, well, quite honestly, if you watch the weather around the country, you can't have a marathon anywhere else. And that's what puts the marathon this particular weekend as opposed to like March or April or whatever. Kathy Childers is in studio right now. She's going to be running in the Louisiana Marathon for a particular cause. Kathy, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about how folks can help here with Sergeant Jason Martin and his family. Tell Jason Martin's story.
Well, Jason is a sergeant with the Baton Rouge Police Department, and in late August, he was working a crash on Interstate 10 at College when he was hit by an impaired driver with an excessively high blood alcohol level.
We remember the news story, yes.
He and 2 other officers were terribly injured, and Jason, as a result of the crash, ended up having to have his leg amputated above the knee. And he's a young guy. He's got young children at home, a wife, and I felt so bad for him. We all did. So I decided I needed to do something. He turned down my offer to mow his grass, which is the first thing I wanted to do for him.
Okay.
So then I thought, well, I'm a runner. Why don't I train for the marathon? And maybe I can get 10 or 12 people to pledge $1 a mile for every mile I complete. And then we can just give the money to Jason.
Okay.
So that's how it started, and it has grown from there.
Okay, so folks can help out with $1 a mile pledge. Where can they go to make this pledge?
Well, I created a Facebook page called Running for Jason, and you can just post your pledge there. It's the honor system. I'm not collecting credit cards or anything. And at the end of the race, we'll let folks know how far I ran.
Okay.
And then I have information on how to pay, and you just pay Jason directly.
Okay, Running for Jason on Facebook. You just look up Running for Jason on Facebook, and it pops right up.
Yes, you'll see a picture of me in my Running for Jason shirt standing next to Jason.
Excellent. So check that out on Facebook, and, of course, be dialed in on Sunday. It's going to be a cold one for you.
I know, but I'm going to do this thing.
Full marathon. Is this is your first one, I'm assuming?
I ran one in 2018.
Okay.
And I said never again because I hurt for 3 solid weeks after.
Oh, my goodness. Well, this one is definitely worthwhile.
That's right.
To be sure. And, yeah, we remember the news story when it happened. And if folks can help out, look up Running for Jason on Facebook. Kathy, thank you so much for hopping on board today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us on the air. Fox News Rundown's coming your way next, followed by Brian Kilmeade. Then, of course, Dave Ramsey, who you heard half an hour ago. And then we'll round things out with the Jay Ducote Show. If you're watching us on YouTube, stick around. We're going to be talking about the MLK Tapes, the new podcast coming your way with William Klaber. That's next. All right. It looks like I've got 1 minute before they call in. So, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that was so quick. I wanted to. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Running for Jason.
Running for Jason.
Oh, my goodness. Yep, and I'm going to hang on to this just to give out reminders tomorrow and Friday as well. No, absolutely. Like I'm a huge fan of the marathon. I think, yeah. Oh no, it's. I'm, okay. Well, no, I'll actually. I'm going to be out of town for this week. I've got a marriage retreat this weekend. So, but no, I'm a huge fan of. It's maybe a decade old, and it's kind of taken us by storm.
Now I'm on all these other running
Mhm.
groups, and everybody from all over the country loves Louisiana Marathon.
Yeah.
Because apparently nobody parties afterwards like we do.
Oh no, our Finish Fest is unbelievable. Yeah, yeah, it's so good. So, thanks. All right, you want to flip me over to program 2 there? Yes, right out that way. Yes. All right, I'm not hearing me. There we go. All right. And just let me know when we're rolling. All right. We all know the story. April 4th, 1968, a lone gunman assassinated Dr. Martin Luther King at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. But is that the whole story? Well, we're joined right now by a guy who's tackling whether or not that's the whole story. His name's William Klaber. He's the host of the true crime podcast, the MLK Tapes, and he joins us now. William, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you, sir?
Oh, great, Brian. It's good today. Absolutely.
Want to start with the very basics. What got you on this path?
Well, that goes back 30 years ago, but I did but it's relevant, so I'm going to talk to you about it. But I was part of a group that went through the Robert Kennedy police files that have been held secret for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if Sirhan alone had murdered Robert Kennedy, there was no reason to keep the police files secret. And when we finally got in there, they were forced to open them. And we started going through the files and listening to their audio tapes. We understood why the files were secret, because it was complete record of their dishonest and corrupt investigation into the murder, where they coerced witnesses and destroyed evidence and fabricated evidence. It was astounding. And so I wrote an article. I went in and interviewed Sirhan in prison and wrote an article, and nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted this story. And I was very discouraged and went home to upstate New York, where using a tiny public radio station up here, using razor blades and scotch tape, which is how it was done back then, produced a 1-hour radio documentary on the murder of Robert Kennedy titled The RFK Tapes, and where we played the tapes of the police threatening witnesses and other misconduct on their part. And the program was picked up by 160 public radio stations across the country. Time magazine ran a full-page review, and St. Martin's Press called me up and asked me to write a book. All that from a story that nobody wanted. And what's the difference? The difference is that in the podcast, it wasn't a podcast, in the documentary, you could hear the witnesses, the actual witnesses, saying what they saw, telling the stories of what happened to them. And there is a power in that that goes far beyond what any author can do just writing down the words. And that was a big lesson for me, is if you have the witnesses themselves, you've got something. So years later, when I bumped into William Pepper, who had worked for 40 years on the King assassination and understood all the audio tapes that he had collected over that time, it wasn't a big leap to think about doing a podcast. In fact, I thought a podcast was the perfect way to tell this story. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, a podcast is kind of the modern radio documentary. It's a great phrasing of it, because so many podcasts, especially true crime podcasts, take on that persona. So how deep do we go here? And without spoiling the podcast, what have you uncovered?
A lot. Again, it's not me uncovering it. It's been a lot of other people doing the work. I'm just sort of putting the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got an incredible list of witnesses who saw very important things, saw things that just totally destroy the whole basic narrative of this thing. And we Art Haynes Jr., who was Ray's first attorney, and he had just come out of law school. He'd gone to Princeton. He's still practicing law in Alabama. And I had a great interview with him a few months back, and he just laid it out because he worked with Ray for 4 months when Ray came home. And Ray was kept in a cage where the light was on all night, and he wasn't allowed to see anybody. And they were keeping him out of sight. And Art Haynes was working with him, getting ready for the trial. And Haynes was convinced, I'm going to get this guy off because there's no evidence against him. And what there is, appears to have been planted. He's a really smart guy, and he loves the law, and he loves the truth, and he really lets it out. And that's the next episode coming up. But we've got just knockout people every episode. People that, Captain Jerry Williams, who would have formed the police security detail, the all-black police security detail for King when he came to visit Memphis, except for the last day when King came to visit Memphis. Excuse me, I got a phone. The detail was not told to form. So, he's and also the two black firemen in the firehouse across the street from Lorraine. The two black firemen were told to go home the day before the murder. They were told to go home and then report to a different fire station. You have this kind of stuff going on all around. I think one of the most compelling witnesses we have, we got a lot of them, but Lenny Curtis came forward 35 years after the crime. And he had been the janitor at the police rifle range, and what he saw and overheard at the rifle range made him absolutely positive that he was watching the assassination in progress. And he tried to warn King and wasn't able to. But his family was very afraid for him, and they begged him not to go forward. It's not your job. But finally, 35 years later, the kids were grown. He decided to come forward. And he told Bill Pepper, you can record me. I'm going to tell you the story. I'm going to tell you what I saw. But I don't want this recording released to anybody until after I'm dead. That's not your everyday kind of deal. And the other part of the deal was he wanted Martin Luther King III, King's eldest son, to sit with him as he told this story. So they sat down, and he basically said to Martin III, this is what I know about how your father died. And he died. He died a few. He died about a half a dozen years ago. So we are now free to play that tape, and we do in episode 10 of the MLK tapes. We play that tape that Lenny Curtis made, but we've got a bunch of others of people that were near death who've come forward and said, "This is what I know," and in some cases, "This is what I did." We have 4 different people who played roles in the assassination who have given us statements about what they did as part of this assassination.
Was James Earl Ray, can he be exonerated, or was he part of something larger?
That's a great question. It appears that James Earl Ray only involvement was the fact that he was brought there to be the fall guy. And they got him to buy a rifle in Birmingham that would then have his fingerprints on it, and they threw that gun down on the street where supposedly Ray left it after he shot King. Art Haynes Jr. said they absolutely had a witness who saw that rifle and the package thrown down on the street 10 minutes before King was shot. And there are a lot of other reasons to believe that rifle was not the rifle that killed King. It appears that Ray was to be the fall guy, and that he didn't know King was going to be murdered. He thought he was participating in some kind of gun deal. In normal sense of the law, he would be innocent of the crime.
William Klaber's our guest. He's the host of the true crime podcast, the MLK Tapes. William, I got to ask, man, because I've read a couple articles about this and getting ready for this interview, and if you follow a lot of what happened here, or a lot of what's claimed to have happened here, it seems to follow a playbook that we saw play out a few times in the 60s Especially if, and I hesitate to throw out the term, but especially if you follow conspiracy theories, like this playbook, the way this thing is spelled out, it sounds like a story we've heard before.
I'm afraid it is a story you've heard before, and tell me this: why does Lee Oswald? I know we're going a little far afield, but why does Lee Oswald shoot John Kennedy? Does anybody know offhand?
Something about communism.
Yeah, and people don't do things for no reason. Lee Oswald had no motive, and somebody says, "Well, he wanted to be in the history books. He wanted to be famous." Oh yeah. Then why he's walking down the hall, and the one time he gets to speak to reporters, he says, "I'm just a patsy." That doesn't sound like somebody who wants to be famous. Okay, but how can you have a murder like that and no real explanation as to why it happened? And of course, I don't think he shot anybody that day. Again, he was set up with the worst rifle in the history of rifles. Well, we have the same thing. Also in the Bobby Kennedy case. So that's probably none of the bullets from Sirhan's gun ever struck Robert Kennedy, and that's almost a certainty. So something else is going on in that pantry that we haven't been told. But we had that exact situation in Memphis with James Earl Ray. He was supposed to be captured. He was supposed to be the assassin. But we know who else was involved. We know the names of the people who were on that knoll with the rifle. The 3 guys up there with the rifle. We know who they were. We know who people were working with. And we know some other stuff, big stuff, that we're going to reveal at the end, which we think is going to blow the lid off this case. So we're going all the way with it. We're not going to just sort of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and, maybe we'll never know. Mm-hmm. Well, there's some pieces of it we'll never know, but we're going to know most of it.
2 more before I get you out of here, and I greatly appreciate your time this morning. The first of which I kind of have to ask, because I fancy myself as a bit of a conspiracy theorist. Would you call yourself a conspiracy theorist?
Absolutely not, and I hate that term, and it's a derogatory term because it kind of makes it sound like people like myself who are really working on these cases are somehow sitting around up in our attics, sort of thinking of theories. I'm an evidence guy. Mm-hmm. I'm an evidence guy. I look at the evidence, and the evidence shows. If the evidence shows that Sirhan acting alone really murdered Robert Kennedy, then that's what it shows. And there have been a couple instances in the Robert Kennedy case where there was something, a story that went and looked like it was on our side, and after a lot of digging, I discovered that the person really was lying. And that was disappointing. But I don't keep on with that story if I know it's not true. So I'm an evidence guy. I'm not a conspiracy guy.
So I asked that question to ask this question. Have you seen any pushback or any fighting along the way as you've tried to build up this, build the evidence within this podcast?
Not yet.
Okay.
Who knows where it's going. I mean, listen. MLK Day is coming up. They have their usual flacks. Guys they trot out who are deeply invested in the official murder, official version of the murder. These guys will be trotted out and will have their say. But I don't really care what they say about me. I want people to listen to the MLK tapes and hear what these witnesses have to say, and they can decide for themselves. They don't have to listen to me.
He is William Klaber, host of the True Crime Podcast, the MLK Tapes. Where can folks find it?
Well, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, any place you get your podcasts, you can find the MLK tapes.
William, I appreciate you hopping on board today with us.
You bet for it. I'm sorry, we're Brian now, right?
Yes.
Excuse me. Yeah, but thanks so much for having me.
While I've got you, before I let you go, this is actually being recorded for playback, and I was planning on playing it on MLK Day. So can I get one sentence out of you just saying today is MLK Day?
Sure.
Just
yeah. Well, today is MLK Day, and I'm real happy, Brian, to be on your show.
Excellent.
Appreciate your interest.
Yeah, no, all good. It was earlier in the interview or one of the last questions you said MLK Day is coming up. So just for
Okay.
consistency purposes, I wanted to have you recorded saying today is MLK Day, and I'll plug that in over there. Otherwise, it airs as it sounded. So all good. William, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Bye. I mean, so I knew I was going to trigger him when I asked him about being a conspiracy theorist, but I note this every opportunity I get because I revel in it. As of right now, 2022, and I don't think you're ever going to see the JFK case go on trial again, the only person to bring that case to trial, questioning the Warren Commission, was a Louisianan. That's right. Look, if you're a regular of the show, you know I'm beating a dead horse at this point. But the only one to engage in the possibility that or to allow for the possibility that this was something bigger than a lone gunman with JFK was Jim Garrison, district attorney from New Orleans. Which is why I appreciate somebody like William hopping on board to open up a bigger scenario. So I didn't do a whole lot of background on William. I did a whole lot of background on James Earl Ray is a lone gunman, and I don't know why we haven't explored all these unanswered questions. But anyway, I appreciate his time. Hey, YouTube, I got to skedaddle. We will see you tomorrow.